Hello, 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 everyone. Happy Friday. Well, it is Friday, and though I missed last week, you guys know what that means. It is happy hour. We all have already have our first chat. Naruto, I hope all 150 plus missing children found in North Carolina yesterday are safe in their homes today. I'm sure that's true for all of us. All right, guys, we have a very, very special treat for this particular happy hour. We have, if I know how to use StreamYard, Deb Fillman is joining us from The Reason We Learn. Deb, welcome to Happy Hour.
Hello. I wish this had something stronger than water.
Well,
but I'm so sleep deprived and dehydrated that I would pass out in 5 minutes. So
that's okay, because I have a whole 6-pack in a little cooler bag.
Jealous.
And the very first thing we're going to do is we're going to figure out what I'm drinking first, because I have a variety pack. I just went to the beer store. I was usually like, my husband usually just gets me a bottle of champagne from like wherever he gets his beer at night. And I was like, no, Victor, like today's a special day. I need to go to the beer store. I need to curate a collection because we have, okay, so I've been hearing about this video all over the place for like the last day or so. And then you pinged me last night after watching it on Twitter and alerted me to the lunacy that we were about to watch. So can you just like intro what we're about to see here before we get into it?
Yeah. So I actually heard about it through a sort of a listserv that I belong to, where a lot of parents and different groups kind of come together to talk about what we're dealing with and what we're seeing out in the schools. So on that message, Will, the guy featured in the video we're about to watch, I think it's Will Roche. He's a teacher in LA. He teaches history and critical thinking. I think he's even writing a book. He posted that he had a conversation on Instagram that I think it's called something like teacher talk or something, with a guy named Shivy and a professor and by the name of Statler, I think. And I'm probably getting their names wrong. And somebody named Weeze, who also is supposedly a sociologist. Anyway, the two women are claimed to be experts in CRT, in critical race theory. And he asked for the conversation. Will asked Shivy for the conversation to set it up because he really wanted to learn more about critical race theory, because he was seeing things in his classroom. He was seeing things he was supposed to teach and things going on in his school. And he also saw parents like pushing back. And he was calling it critical race theory and heard people pushing back calling it critical race theory. But he also kept hearing that's not what critical race theory is, like we've heard before, right? So he said, all right, I want to talk to the source. I want to talk to people who like know what it is better than I do, right? Scholars in the subject, and let them explain to me, where am I going wrong? I don't think this should be in the schools in K through 12. I have a problem with what I'm seeing, but what am I missing? And so he solicited this conversation, and the video is basically the 2-hour conversation. And what he did was he posted it from Instagram to YouTube, his YouTube. And he prefaced it with an opening statement, which I don't know if you want to watch, but because it's like 8 minutes long. Yeah. So we probably can skip that because he tells you that at 8 minutes or so you can start. But in the preface, I'll just sum it up for you. He says, like, he really did try to learn, and you may see a conversation that's not very productive. However, it is illustrative of how these conversations go. Mm-hmm. That what you're going to actually see, ironically, is not so much a defense of critical race theory in the classroom, but exactly how critical race theory manifests in the classroom, the way they conduct this conversation. Imagine little Will, like a 10 or 12-year-old student. Like, as you're watching, I want you to think about teachers behaving this way, people presenting these identical ideas to students and so forth. So he put it out there for people to see, and he was very honest. He said, look, you might agree with them. You might agree with them. If you do, here are their links. And if you don't, you don't. But he did ask that nobody harass them, nobody go after them. He was very upstanding about that. So I decided, okay, I'll watch this. I'm curious. He's a teacher. He teaches. Well, I'll watch it. And I watched it. And I think I was about 40 minutes in or so when I messaged Carlin, and I was not going to watch the rest. I was just like, holy hell. And then I realized I can't very well come on and do this without really knowing it. I have to have my teacher hat on. So I watched the rest of it. And then that brings us to today, where she's reacting for the first time. I've seen it. But here we are. So we're going to share this together and listen for the ideas, guys. That's what I want you to listen for, is the ideas, and watch the behaviors of how they treat him, how they speak to him, and if this sounds like a regular conversation to you.
All right. Well, that's a good preface. So Deb has seen it. She knows what we're getting into. I have not. And we're just going to see how this goes. Now, before we get started, I want to just acknowledge these super chats. Land Marketing says you're doing God's work, maybe a few God's work. And I would put that on Deb too, guys. If you have not subscribed to Deb's YouTube channel, it's called The Reason We Learn. It's in the description below. She's doing a lot of great work. And I definitely encourage everyone to subscribe. Engineering Politics, one of our mutual friends. You can make any claim true by changing the definition of just one word. Thomas Sowell. He lost right after accepting the redefinition of racism. And then Naruto, again, shout out to the people currently attending those right-wing institutions called universities. Yeah, I saw that. Right. Do you see that article? Oh, crazy time. All right, guys. Now, before we jump right into it, I just want to make sure, let me see. This is brought to you by my Locals community. Locals is the best place on the internet. Deb is a member of my Locals community. I'm also a member of her Locals community. It is social media for adults. If you want to support my work, you can join my Locals community either by becoming a monthly member or an annual member, for which you get 2 months free. I also encourage you to join Deb's Locals community. Hang on. Phone. Join Deb's Locals community and help her out as well. You talk a lot about homeschooling in your community, right? And helping people out with that.
I got to talk more about that than this garbage.
And then if you haven't yet, you're going to want to get your Unwoke Bingo card. Now, the link for the Unwoke Bingo card is in the description below, and you just click on it and you generate yourself a bingo card, and everyone's bingo card is unique. And the ways you can get bingo, this is just a nice little game we do for fun. You get your free space. We either want to see a straight line or we want to see the corners. If you get either a straight line or corners, just shout out bingo in the chat. And once we hit a bingo, after that, we go for blackout bingo. You win nothing. This is just for bragging rights. But it is what it is, and it makes it a little bit fun. All right. Now, one more thing. I have 6 different beers here, Deb. So okay. we need to pick out a beer for me to start with.
Okay.
I'm going to tell you guys what I have. I've got Pucker Crush, which is a blackberry lemonade sour. Mm-hmm. I've got a peanut butter stout. Peanut butter stout. That might be a good beer for later. I've got one called Mocha, which is another stout with like coffee and vanilla and stuff like that. I have hang on. Orange creamsicle. And I've never had any of these beers before. I've got Cherry Bomb, which I like the idea of right there. And then let's see. A coconut stout.
Ooh.
What do we think I should start with?
That is tough because I tend to go from like savory to sweet. I mean, if we're talking about like wines, for example, like I would go from like heavy to light, but I don't know. That's a tough one because you said you wanted to save the peanut butter one for later. Because I would say
it's gonna be like a beefy one. So we gotta go.
Maybe cut coconut because it's kind of light.
What's a stout though? Let me see.
Stout's heavy. Stout's
heavy.
Stout's heavy.
Why don't we start with
what's the base beer? Are we talking lagers here? Are we talking pilsners? What are?
You know what? Why don't we? That's not what I want. God. Why don't we start with orange creamsicle? I feel like this is a good bet. It's a warm summer day, and we'll just see how far we go. I actually do have.
Besides, we need to remind ourselves of the Orange Menace because.
Exactly. Now, if you're drinking in the chat, coffee, tea. Something stronger. Let us know what you're drinking. Student of history, if there isn't a land acknowledgement literally in the first 5 minutes, my ancestors are going to be so mad. And reasonability says you get a bingo, everyone gets a bingo. Mount that like button. It's my amazing daughter's 2nd birthday. Happy birthday, everyone. Happy birthday. Guys, just so you know, I might just be showing the super chats on the stream because this video is like 2 hours long. And so I'm going to do my best to acknowledge everyone. And of course, I do very much appreciate the support. But we also have to at some point get through the video before I keel over and die. All right. And Gabs is in the chat. Gabrielle Clark. Why didn't I get the option to drink when I was on your show? Gab, you can come on the channel on Friday. We can all have happy hour together. You are always welcome, my friend. All right. Let me see.
Here we go.
Getting into it. Sharing the file. Watch together. All right. Let me know if you guys can hear the sound. Oh, and we want to fast forward like 8 minutes in, I think.
Yeah, 8 minutes, I'd say. I can't hear the sound.
Dang it. I think we might not be able to do it this way. God
Well, that's
damn.
okay. I mean, if you don't mind, I'll just kind of interject and you can pause.
Hang on. I may have done it wrong. But it's also being this weird thing where it's not. Yeah, it's pausing. Okay, guys, we're going to have to do this the old-fashioned way. Hang on.
Okay.
Sorry. Stand by.
Close this thing, right?
Yeah.
Watch together.
Because it's like, that's being weird. I don't know why it's pausing like that, but what else? Hang on. Technical difficulties. This is what happens on Happy Hour when we do it live. Need to get in there. Find the dang video. Find the video. Okay. We'll go 8 minutes in. All right. Take 2 on the share. Chrome, share audio. All right. Theater mode.
This. Shout out Dr. Angel Jones.
We hearing the sound?
Yep.
If you have time, I know you're on vacation, but after we finish this conversation, I would love to open.
I'm going to warn you, he has sound effects.
For others to tap in after we finish this conversation between
I
Slater.
I can't do music. Okay? Come on, dude. I'm gonna get demonetized for this music.
See, look, all y'all West Coast people with all your sunlight outside, I'm feeling salty right now.
Okay.
I don't need that.
How y'all doing today? How's everybody?
We're good.
Yeah. Well, first, I want to say thank you. Thank you to everybody for tapping in. Thank you to everybody for agreeing to share space with this conversation, on this conversation. I think this is going to be good. This is going to be good.
Oh, yes, it is.
I guess first thing before we get started, can everybody just give me one word, describe how you feel in this moment? Slater, you're top for me, so I'm going to ask you to go first.
I'll give you 3, and that is anxious as hell.
Correct.
Will, how you feeling today?
Open.
Ooh, okay.
Correct.
Oh, come on. No, don't do this to me, YouTube. Come on. No. Happy
They're
hour.
not they're not in the process of deleting it, are they?
They better not be. Are they? I have a backup. Hang on. What is going on?
No way.
No, did they delete it? It's unlisted. It's listed as unlisted.
Oh my God, they deleted it.
I want to start off by just allowing you.
No one touch anything. What is going on?
He's been complaining like all day about it.
This guy?
That Will like stole his content.
Well, you know what I'm gonna do?
Go to Instagram. Watch it from there.
It's on. I
You
don't.
all to just briefly introduce yourselves.
Hang on.
Tell the people who you are, where you're coming from, and then I will kick off with a few questions that I have to go through this conversation. The way I would like this dialogue to go is typical Teacher Talk Live format, where I have some questions and things that I'm going to volley out. I'm really going to behave more as a moderator, and I'm really going to be a learner through this conversation. So this is going to be an opportunity for everyone to kind of share your perspectives based on some of the questions I have, and then we'll let it go naturally. If we start running off with it, then it's just going to be what it is. So Weezy, since you were last, I want you to go first this time. Could you just introduce yourself?
Yeah, so my name is Louisa Duran. Everybody calls me Weez or Weezy, Bay Area born and bred from Oakland. I am an anti-racism educator, social impact strategist, and
it's not a real thing.
People keep throwing this word around, decolonial anti-oppression educator. I still haven't decided if I like it, but
no one
needs to go on the bingo card.
She, her pronouns, Amazigh, which is, as I mentioned last time, we broke it down, Berber, which we don't use that word, but more commonly known as the Moors. Really important for me to reclaim my tribal lineage because I have the privilege of knowing it. And I think that's all the people need to know.
Deb, what the hell did any of that mean?
She's very proud of the fact that she's from, I guess, originally from her ancestry is back to Morocco. And in part of this are going to go into, you know, like the Moors and how fabulous and amazing they are. They're a little bit black supremacists, if you want my honest answer. I think that's me. I mean, although she talks about how she's like racially ambiguous because she looks so light skinned and all this, but yeah, Morocco, Northern Africa.
Okay.
That's what that meant. She's very proud of her tribal lineage.
Excellent. And just so you know, right now, I'm literally uploading the recording onto my second channel just to have a backup in case this all goes kaput. So we will have a backup in about 10 minutes.
Yeah.
For now.
I love it. Will, could you please introduce yourself?
Yeah, I'm Will Roosh. I'm a high school teacher in Los Angeles. Born and raised in Pennsylvania, moved out here in 2006, and I've been teaching at various high schools in Los Angeles, public schools, charter schools, private schools, things like that for the past, 15 years. And kind of fell into this stuff, just learning about critical theory and then critical race theory and just kind of getting all sides of it. And yeah, I haven't been able to really get a good conversation going with people who support it, you know, and so I'm really excited to do that.
Love it.
They grow to hate that.
Slater.
Ooh,
Okay, let's put some respect on it. Okay, Dr. Slater.
Is this the same woman that is in my UNH videos?
I believe so. Yes, she taught pre-service teachers at UNH.
This is now the third time this woman has made an appearance on Happy Hour. The first one was purposeful. The second two were accidental.
Right. She's based in Massachusetts, and she is a zealot.
She is crazy. We watched her before at the UNH webinar. Oh, good.
Right.
Will, could you please introduce yourself to the people?
I love it. I love it.
No. It's going to be a long happy hour.
Oh, God. I'm sorry.
This is not your fault. Like, what was it even going? We have 3 minutes left before I can switch over to a different version of this and hopefully not buffer all the time. Come on, YouTube. Don't fail me.
Hi, everyone. So I'm Dr. Kate Slater, Dr. Slater to some, Dr. Kate to others. Still very new, but my background's in critical race theory and specifically in talking about how whiteness and white supremacy show up in institutions and in individuals. And by day, I work at a college in Massachusetts, and by night, I yell at white people on the internet.
And that makes her a winner. Isn't that awesome?
And we'll give it right back to you, Kate. Right back to you.
First question. I'm gonna shoot it towards Will. Will, what are your motives in wanting to engage in this conversation? Some would say you've tiptoed your way into the lion's den, right? Although I would say not so much. We're not going to go that far with it.
Watch.
I think treat this platform as a marketplace for ideas. We don't all always agree on everything. In fact, we disagree on a lot. And I think the meme I put up today kind of defines what this is. We don't have to agree, but we should agree to talk. And so, Will, that is my first question to you. What is your motive behind this conversation, and what do you hope to achieve from this?
Well, I think because this is the direction that a lot is going in education, I would love to have my mind change. Sounds like a Steven Crowder thing, which I can't stand Steven Crowder. But you know, it's like was it Audre Lorde and Miranda Fricker? Like the master's tools can't be used to disrupt the master's house type of thing. So what I've gotten a lot of like Enlightenment principles, because it's rooted in white patriarchy, you don't use Enlightenment principles like reason and discussion and stuff like that. So it's been really hard for me to have those discussions, and that's kind of what I get cited for the reason why I can't have it. So my motive is to have this conversation. Like I'm with you, Shivy. Like I think this is the ideal. Is we might not agree, but like let's at least have those discussions. Is what Enlightenment principles are all about. That civil discourse.
Can you pause it for a second?
Yeah.
So what he's saying, guys, is that he's tried to engage with people before using your standard civil discourse, using Enlightenment principles, asking questions, asking for evidence. And he's been told, we don't do that. We don't do that because we don't use those are the tools of the master's house. Reason, Enlightenment principles are the tools of the master. That is an explicit rejection of Enlightenment principles and practices of critical thinking as we have known it all of our lives and for the entire existence of our country. So they're saying straight up, you can't engage with us that way because we're not going to use those tools. So he doesn't have any way to communicate with them. It's the first strategy of shutting down debate is co-op, like decide what tools are appropriate and then tell the person that you're against they can't use the ones they have and make up new ones that they don't know how to do.
I already feel bad for this guy because I feel like he's going into this with the like genuinely trying to have a reasonable conversation, and he doesn't realize yet that these people don't play by those rules.
No.
Oh.
And the thing is, I want also the audience to watch this as an example of what not to do. Meaning have these conversations.
No, don't do it.
There's no point, but
don't do it.
You'll see why.
Okay. Deb and I are trained professionals. We know how to have
Yes, we don't have them. That's what we do. We don't have them.
I do, but only for fun.
Yeah. You can James Lindsay it, but you can't do this.
No, you can't do this. Don't do it. Don't try.
Yeah.
Dr. Slater, what do you see?
What in the holy hell? Video's processing on the other channel. We're going to move over as soon as we can. Okay. I don't know what's going on here. Come on, YouTube. Come on.
It's weird that it says unlisted.
Yeah, I think you took it down earlier.
The benefits of utilizing critical race theory framework in schools.
Listen closely.
Especially, I know that you're in the higher education realm, you're in the academy, but critical race theory is something that's being employed more and more, especially in K-12 education as well. So if you wouldn't mind, I would appreciate if you could just kind of share what that
just remember, guys, she doesn't teach K-12.
Sure. Well, first, I think that I'd start by saying I think there's a lot of misunderstanding about what CRT is.
Yeah.
There's a lot. I think the most prevalent.
Oh, come on.
There's no misunderstanding.
No, there's no misunderstanding.
We get it.
I'm going to take this opportunity, Kate. If you ever want to have a debate with me, Kate, you're welcome to come on my channel. You've already been on my channel like 3 times. Right. So we might as well talk, Kate.
There's no misunderstanding. And I just find it hilarious that somebody who teaches college is talking about K-12.
Narrative that I hear is that CRT is divisive. So by
she's
taking
laughing.
A critical lens that examines how systemic and structural racism shows up in all of these different areas in our country, somehow we're being divisive by calling attention to disparities that already exist. And so I see great value in using CRT as a lens in both higher education and K-12, because again, what you're teaching is critical thinking.
No, you're not. No, wrong.
Is students to push back on these dominant narratives.
The whole basis of this ideology is that you cannot disagree with this ideology, otherwise you are a racist. How is that teaching people critical thinking?
And also, when she says, so the students can push back on dominant narratives, they need to agree with you first that they are dominant narratives. They need to hear the narratives and evaluate the narratives. And guess what? Just because something's dominant doesn't make it wrong. Just because something is dominant, guess what? A dominant narrative for a very long time was that the civil rights movement was a good idea and we really needed to give equal rights to blacks. That was a dominant narrative. Okay? Women's rights that were important. That was a dominant narrative. So saying that something is a dominant narrative is a meaningless statement. It's not inherently negative. So to tell somebody you have to push back on it simply because it's dominant is already, you're already leading the witness. You're already telling the kid that something is wrong. They haven't had the chance to evaluate using their own minds and their own questions and asking you, Ms. Adult, why you think what you think. You're not even exposing yourself to why you think what you think.
Oh my God, Rosie, thank you for that super chat. I really appreciate that. Deb, you just let it out. You let it out, Deb. You have as many moments as you want on this channel. It's okay.
Sorry.
I'm here for you. I believe in you.
To push back on these deficit frameworks that they see so often. To push back on this.
What is a deficit framework? That is a nonsense term. What is a hi, little 5th grader. Would you help me push back on this deficit framework?
Man.
Oh, can you translate in English for the elementary school student, please, or even the high school student? These are kids who can't read. 35% proficiency
Kind of
in literacy.
whitewashed, hegemonic narrative of American history, and say whose stories are being told and why, and who are the stakeholders that have power in this game. It's simply using a critical lens to examine structural inequities and the history of oppression that's already there.
Yeah. Wheezy, what are some of the benefits that you see in utilizing CRT framework within schools, K-12 as well as higher ed?
So I hate to be this person, but
No,
I
she
have to
doesn't.
derail the
Can you
conversation
pause for
really
1
quickly.
second?
Yes.
You got to
No,
pause.
she does not hate to be this person.
Yeah.
Let's just point it out. She's been waiting
She
for
says
this
a
moment.
lot of things like this. I want you guys to listen for all the things she goes, I don't want to do this and I don't want to do that. Is she's literally doing it. Okay. Like, no offense is like her, she doesn't say that, but that's what she means. But listen to what she's about to do to Will. And then ask yourself if you've ever in your life heard somebody who is a proponent of something they were trying to advance as factual, scientific, and appropriate to be taught as such to children. In other words, kids who don't know any different. They have no basis for evaluating it in any other way. Ask if you've ever heard somebody sell their ideas the way she's about to do it, or have an interaction with somebody who might disagree with her the way she's about to do it.
All right.
If that's okay.
Do your thing.
I have a general founding principle, Will and Kate, if y'all will rock with me for a second, that in order for us to have effective discourse and in order for us to be engaged in conversation with the hopes of moving the needle forward and expanding all of our thinking, we have to ensure that we're coming from the same socio-political lens.
No,
we don't.
And so,
wrong.
if that's okay with you, Shiv, I actually have a couple questions. Kate, I can imagine
What is she talking about? If you all come from the same socio-political lens, then what is there to even discuss?
Right. What are you moving forward? You're all going to sit around and pat each other on the back and go, we agree. Yay. We all started in the same place. So it's only logical that we would end in the same place. We have to all start from the same socio-political lens. That doesn't move anything forward. There's no growth when everybody's starting in the same place.
Degree, where you come from in this. But if it's all right with y'all, I just want to pose some quick yes or no questions just so that I know where y'all are coming from.
You might be beating me to where I was going, but go ahead and do your thing.
I have
I'm
to do
happy
it now
because
otherwise it's just going to be in my head and I'm not going to be able to be present. So is that okay?
Absolutely.
Go ahead.
Okay. Will, is that okay with you?
Sure.
Yeah. Okay, cool. So yes or no, do you believe that we live in a country rooted in white supremacy and built within systems of oppression?
No.
Yes.
Yes.
Yeah. Among other
Oh, I
things.
hate that he did that. I hate
Cool.
that he did that because he doesn't even
racism is
believe
real.
it.
Yes.
Yes.
Cool. White folks cannot experience racism.
Wrong.
Yes.
Yes.
Look at her face. Yes.
I mean, if you follow the dictionary, I would say that that's not true. White folks.
The dictionary definition is currently being updated because a number of Black women wrote in, and the dictionary definition is being updated to include the power dynamic necessary.
Okay, can we just? I'm sorry. Can we talk about the absurdity of a couple of people writing an angry letter and them updating the dictionary?
The English language. Yeah.
The English language. That's not how that works.
A couple of Black women wrote in. Can you imagine if a couple of white women wrote in and said, well, I'd like to redefine these few words because I don't think that they're appropriate. How about like mother? Can we go back to the original one? Can we get some white women together to write a letter about mother? This is ridiculous.
I think they may have actually just deleted it because I can't even hit play anymore.
Yeah, but they did.
Hang on. 17. Oh, wait.
Yes.
Oh,
Yes.
back. We're back.
Cool. White folks cannot experience racism.
Oh, it's not going here, though. Video's processing on the second channel.
Yeah, white folks can't experience racism. Did you know that? Can't experience it.
Of course they can. Anyone can experience racism. Now, I won't go so far as to say that I think that white people are the victims of society because of this crap. I think that that's going too far. But
Yes.
White folks can. I mean, if you follow the dictionary, I would say that that's not true. White folks.
The dictionary definition is currently being updated because a number of
you
Black
have to
women
agree
wrote
with
in,
me.
and the dictionary definition is being.
I'm going to
updated
correct you
include
for
the power
all of your
dynamic
incorrect
necessary
perceptions.
for racism.
Then yes, if you change the definitions of words, then I think my answer would change.
So I'm going to challenge that a little bit and say if we actually
If we define the words like
appropriately
I
instead of
want
letting
them to be
those who have always
defined.
controlled the narrative define them. So
I love how they think
Well,
that white
can I
people
help you,
control
Will?
the narrative
Can we agree
anymore.
that white people may be able to experience discrimination?
Oh my God. Maybe if I already okay. Maybe if I put it on lower quality.
But not experience racism.
You'd have to change the definition.
Nope, that's not working either. Come on, man.
I wonder if they're throttling it.
It might be. For
Definition of the word, which I guess is happening now. And then I could agree with it if you change.
That's messed up.
Alexandra says, "Oh, how fun, Carlin and Deb today. I know y'all are mounting that like button hard." Yes, absolutely. Mount that like button. And guys, if you love Deb so far, please make sure you subscribe to Deb's YouTube channel because it is awesome, and it is in the description below.
Change definitions of words, then I would agree with it.
Based on contemporary understanding as stands, as is, can you agree with the notion that white people can experience discrimination, but not experience racism?
No, don't do it, Will. Don't do it. No,
the definition that I just looked recently,
it's binary, Will.
What is?
It's yes or no.
They're bullying him into
the
a position.
If it is not, believing that one race of people is superior or inferior to another, I think white people can experience that because there are people that think white people are inferior.
Right.
But if you change the definition, then you see what I'm saying? Like I'm not going to say yes to something that's not.
Don't do it, Will.
Accurate.
Don't give in. Don't look at her face. Look at her face. She's like, how dare you?
When we're in spaces like this, so I can come back to this. Got it.
Yeah.
Do you believe that our liberation is bound together?
Thank you, proud mama.
Absolutely.
Yes.
I don't know. I'm simple. What does that mean?
That our liberation is all connected. So if I'm oppressed, you're oppressed. If I'm liberated,
she's oppressed. This woman. She says she's so oppressed.
Our liberation is all connected. Yeah, I think that's the Constitution. Like a Constitution.
But think of the absurdity of this woman saying that she's oppressed. She's getting paid. She's getting paid. She makes her living doing whatever that gobbledygook is that she said that she does. And that there's like, she gets paid to like word salad children.
Declaration of Independence. Yeah. Yeah.
Okay.
I don't know if that. No, I don't know.
That's okay. So.
Come on. Processing's almost done. This is insanity.
Yeah, I don't get what's going on.
What is going on with this? I have never had this happen.
And then the one other thing that I just have to note, because it really truly irks me when we weaponize words specifically of Black activists and Black women that have come before. The quote is that the master's tool cannot dismantle the master's house, which does not mean that we don't believe in political discourse. It does not mean that we don't believe in civil discourse. It does not mean that we don't believe in engaging in human conversations. What it means is that you cannot use tools of fear, of violence, of oppression, and of all of the other systems that have been used to inherently dehumanize folks.
Wait, so basically she just said like that anything that he disagrees with is using a tool of violent oppression against them in this conversation. And so he's not allowed to disagree with them. Am I wrong about that?
Well, what he specifically said was that he uses reason and logic and that. He didn't say anything about civil discourse. He said reason and logic and that kind of thing. And she said, oh, we can engage in civil discourse. Yeah, you can be sweet as sugar about how you tell someone they're racist. You get a big old smile on your face when you tell them that their reasons aren't reasons. But what she's saying is that reason and logic, as we know from the little whiteness infographic from the Smithsonian, and they've never disavowed that, they just took down the infographic and baked it into the article, that they consider the reason and logic and the scientific method breakdown of things, asking for empirical data, for evidence, that is whiteness. They call it whiteness. So what she's not disavowing is that it's a master's tool to use reason. She's saying civil, we can be civil, we can engage, we can occupy space, all this other garbage, but he didn't say anything about that. He didn't say people won't be civil to me. He said, I use reason and I ask questions and they're telling me they won't use the tools of the master's house. She doesn't disavow that.
To dismantle the same system that we are suffering from. So what it means is that we have to come from a place of humanity and love to dismantle the system. We can't just trade oppressors.
Yes, this
So
feels very
want to be
humane
really
to me.
clear in that. Not for you, Will, just for anyone listening, because we have a responsibility to the 200 some people that are watching right now to make sure that they are walking away with appropriate information and accurate information. So I did want to correct that. Now, Shiv, I'm so sorry. What was your question?
That was awesome because I have questions that follow suit with that. I wasn't going to rapid fire. Well, maybe I should have. It's funny because Jordy, shout out Jordy, who helps me craft all the TTLs.
Kate is going to be quiet throughout this whole video because
She hardly says anything.
She's going to defer to the people of color, and she's going to make interesting hand motions. That's what she's going to do this whole video.
Well, and she tells Will, she serves as the white scold to tell Will when he may and may not speak, when he may and may not have an opinion, when he is permitted to, have an opinion. And this guy, this Chivy guy, he loves himself.
Like, ask the question. So she's texting me, and then Weezy goes off. So I love it. For the panel, and we can keep the same energy. Do you see whiteness as property?
Absolutely.
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 Yes.
Now they never really explain this, by the way.
Whiteness is property.
Yeah, somebody emailed me a link to that explains like what that means because I watched and I missed it. Maybe I'll catch it on the second time around, but I still don't understand.
These little buffering moments, Deb, they're actually giving us time to talk.
Yeah.
Great. I don't even have to hit pause.
Yeah, whiteness as property. And then coming up soon is their lovely views on capitalism.
Term whiteness, I don't know exactly. You have to just explain that to me. Because I've gotten, and just going back to Weezy, what you said, like, I hear that if that's the definition, but I was told by Black women who are critical race theorists something very different. So I don't know who controls the narrative. You know what I mean? Like I had Black women who are critical race theory professors at universities tell me something different what the master's tools mean. So I'm going off of.
So let me ask for clarity then, because what you want me, what I've understood from what you said previously is that the master's tool that you were referring to was civil discourse. And that's not a thing because it's actually in one of the tenets of critical race theory.
Okay.
Why would civil discourse be a master's tool?
It's not what he said anyway.
What you've been taught and what framework you're coming from so that I can I can meet you where you're at.
Yeah.
So help me understand.
I need to know what you mean so I can tell you how you're wrong.
Professor of critical race theory is saying that civil discourse is a master's tool and thus we don't use it, then inherently they don't believe in critical race theory, and so why are they teaching it?
Yeah, that's the opposite of critical race theory.
Like Andy, I don't know, he's not a critical race theory professor, but he's never had like a discussion with like when Coleman Hughes asked him to. Like
that's a personal belief system. That doesn't mean that he abides by critical race theory. Also, Black folks aren't required to have conversations with everybody that knocks on their door. So I can't speak for Kendi and why I chose not to have a conversation. The two, because melanated folks, white folks, any
melanated.
It's got to go on the card.
That's definitely going in the bingo card. So absolutely.
That was just my point in correcting. So again, I'm not sure where that came from, but it is
melanated.
Inherently contradictory to critical race theory to say that we don't believe in.
Oh my God.
This really frustrated me so much because I heard him very clearly say that he was trying to engage and ask questions and use, reason and logic and all that kind of stuff. And he I don't know if he said civil discourse. I don't think he used civil, but he said reason or something. And that he was told at the time we don't do that.
Of this nature.
So may I ask, this is an important conversation. I mean, Shiv, you've been the fact that you're doing this is a big deal. I mean, we have 300 people in here. This is a big deal. If critical race theorists would always be willing to have civil discourse, then why is this such a big deal?
Well, let's not deviate from where we are, right? It's like being on the phone with someone and saying, "Why don't you call me?" Right? So we're here. So you know what I'm saying? Like let's live in now. Let's live in now.
I also think I was going to say there's a real differentiation to make there between critical race scholars wanting to have discussions about critical race theory and people of color, just like Weezy said, not wanting to just have to explain to every single person who wants to come along and play whataboutism these things that these folks could all go.
She really does not like herself, does she?
No.
Like, she really, and I feel like I kind of feel empathy for Kate. I do, because I feel like one day, maybe like 20, 30 years from now, she's going to wake up and realize that she got a PhD in bullshit and that she hurt an awful lot of people. And it's like, that's going to be hard for her. I wouldn't want to be in her shoes.
Go off and read a book about.
Dr. Kate, do you mind defining, someone asked in the comments, what is whiteness? How do you define whiteness?
Good question.
Yeah, so whiteness, I think that it stands, first of all, we know race is a construct.
No.
Whiteness was created to represent, when we talk about whiteness as property, right? Whiteness was created as a category to delineate people that could own property, people as property, that could enslave, that could.
That's so not true. That is like historically completely inaccurate. Whiteness was not created for this purpose. Slavery has existed longer than language. Okay. Slavery has existed all over the world and still exists. In fact, the West invented abolition. So this idea that whiteness was created as a category of who could own property and people, that's interesting. Would you like to let the rest of the world that's not white know about that? Because they have other categories that they use that aren't whiteness that connote who can own property and who can own people. Okay. And this is complete nonsense. On the eastern coast of Africa, black people were selling other black people into slavery. There have been all kinds of relationships, power structures, etc., that don't break down to race. Just because it happened to be in this country that it worked out that way, that's not why whiteness was not invented. Whiteness was invented, if you really want to know where the term white comes from. It comes from the fact that in America, there were so many immigrants coming from so many different countries that in Europe that people weren't able to think of themselves as I'm Irish, I'm Italian, I'm French, I'm German, I'm this. You were American, right? So then because we did have people who were not of this skin color and they were owned as property, people just were like to lump all those people together who were European. They just called them the white people as opposed to the black people. And they didn't call them black, they called them Negroes. But the fact is, this idea that whiteness was invented to say you get to own property. The Irish couldn't own property. They came here as slaves.
Well, they've assimilated to whiteness now, Deb, so they don't matter anymore. Same with the Italians.
In fact, what actually happened was then initially in the early days, in the 1600s, there were multiple categories of slaves. You had your indentured servants and you had your actual bondage slaves, not all of whom were black, by the way. And it was actually evolved to be that only people who were black were in the category of owned property. There are other kinds of slavery, indentured servitude, serfdom, whatever you want to call, were different categories. But it's not that they called them white to do that. It's just that that's how it all fell out. And I don't know the details of it well enough to expound on it, but what she's saying is just factually inaccurate. Whiteness was not invented to say, these are the people who can own property, because they couldn't all own property for a very long time.
I'm just going to sit here and drink and let you take this entire life.
No, I just... But
no,
it's so frustrating because it's like...
So right. It's like, this is ridiculous. This is completely untrue.
Yeah.
Alexandra says, so you're there under the impression that all Black Americans support CRT? Yeah, they actually probably are under the impression.
No, they're not.
No?
Wait till you hear what they say about Black people who don't support this.
Oh, God. I can only imagine.
That could use the weapons of settler colonialism. And they were allowed to be in that position because of a construct that was created about them. So by virtue of that historical grounding, Will, which I know I'm barking up your tree at this point in time, whiteness represents white guilt, white fragility, white supremacy.
Okay, first of all, in the early days of colonial times, right? You know, we had the French and Indian Wars, right? There were different tribes of Indians on each side. Natives. There were different tribes. They were all carrying weapons around. Nobody said, I'm sorry, you're not white. You can't participate in this. You can't have weapons. They didn't go door to door and take them away.
All of these things are now synonymous with whiteness, which I see as a stand-in for white supremacy.
Of course you do.
I mean, the ways in which this country preserves whiteness as the default and the norm and the ideal.
You preserve it as the default.
And all of its systems.
You goddamn racist.
Yeah,
to my
it's
original
not
question,
the
what do
reality.
you
Come
view
out
like
here
this
and live in the
property?
world outside of academia, lady.
I'm still just really confused by whiteness. I'm sorry. Like,
Because it doesn't make any
about,
freaking
like,
sense.
I know.
I feel so bad for him.
Like, slaves, like it's confusing to me. We said they were able to own property, or they were able to own people.
This is like emotional abuse. What is going on here? And this is just like the very beginning of the video, but these are like emotional abusers, like grooming him into this like false
so
reality.
It's historically, factually bullshit. The very first slaves on these shores were Irish children.
Very diverse, racially diverse people owned people. So, you know
Right.
what I mean? So I get confused.
But in this country, whiteness has currency, right? Whiteness
She
has
just
always
changed
had
the
currency.
paradigm, by the way.
Whiteness has always
She changed it from they were the ones who could own people to whiteness has currency.
Power,
Totally different paradigm.
value sewn up in us being white people. There is power inherent with that, just like there is experiences of disadvantage and oppression that are sewn up in the experiences of people of color in this country because of whiteness. These two things are in opposition to each other, right?
Can we say like some though? Like some, if you're born in, like, if you look at like, you know, like West Virginia, like you look in like hillbillies, like the poorest counties in the country, some of them are white. So that's where I get confused.
Can I jump in here? I'm going to jump in real quick.
Go ahead.
Of course you are.
First and foremost, white folks who are impoverished because capitalism is a very real thing. Because we live
Capitalism is a real thing, yes.
Of a trickle-down economy that doesn't actually trickle down to the people.
Capitalism is not trickle down.
Franchised because of capitalism, not because they are white. Whereas
capitalism enfranchises you. It doesn't disenfranchise you.
That have been done for the last umpteen decades to prove that folks who are marginalized in their racial identity are explicitly impoverished and disenfranchised solely because of that racial identity.
What are you talking about?
You can guarantee within a 97% accuracy their potential life outcomes. That means earning, health outcome, you know, the day they'll die, level of education. So
do you know how much nuance there is in what she's saying? What she's saying is not inaccurate. Okay, that you can take a zip code and you can take who lives there and you can do all this statistical analysis and make these predictions. But she's defining what it means, not scientifically. She has her conclusion, and she has her conclusion that racism is in control of everything. It's God. Okay, or the devil, whatever you want to call it. And so when there's a problem, there's poverty, this, that, the other, that's concentrated here or concentrated there. She's decided that the only truth is this power differential, race, etc. It never dawns on her there are like 100 other things that feed into that. Now, half of them, maybe even 99 of them, can trace their path back to, explicit racism in the past, etc. But in order to actually solve the problem, in order to actually understand the problem and fix it, you have to allow yourself to be curious about those nuances. In fact, it would strengthen her position scientifically if she allowed people to ask questions. What about this? What about that? What about this? That's not whataboutism. That's scientific inquiry. Let's turn over all the little rocks and make sure that our theory is actually a theory and not just a suggestion. She's not even at hypothesis yet. She takes statistics and goes, it means X. And that's just not true, because you can replicate the identical information in a white area. You can decide if all these other demographics are identical and the only thing different is white, you'll still have the same goddamn outcome. That should tell you that there's some other factor that's at least equally important. But she doesn't want to know about it.
Naruto says, I propose more co-creations with Deb. Well, we'll have to see about that. But guys, if you like Deb so far, please subscribe to her channel. It's in the description below. And if you're one of
clown.
You're amazing, Deb. I mean, you had a little bit of a head start on me because you watched this already, but like,
I'm sorry.
You're incredible. Like, this is why I wanted you here. This is so much better. If you are one of the 200 people in the chat that has not mounted that like button yet, now's the time.
Boom. Yes, capitalism did, because the economy of the South could not survive using that source of labor. It just couldn't freaking survive. It had to end.
Yep.
this conversation actually oriented in the conversation that I came for.
Ugh. She has just an angry, like, I was like watching these people's body language too. Like, she just has like an angry, like, chip on her shoulder demeanor about her. She has this entire time when she was like sitting like that at the beginning. I was like, oh, here we go. Here we go. Alexander John says, Deb, we got to get you a debate. I want to watch you stalk and pray. Go for the
is
kill.
Actually answering the questions as they're posed, because one of the things that I will not do in political discourse and civil engagement is when we can't have a conversation about a thing because we're overwhelmed, we start to divert and answer questions with questions. I will sit here and explain things.
He's
all
not
day
allowed to
long,
ask
as long
questions
as we're
now?
rooted in the conversation.
Isn't that
So,
the whole
to
point?
take it back for you, the easiest way that I explain whiteness.
Yeah.
Whiteness is not phenotypic whiteness. There's white people and there's people who happen to be white, for sure, right?
Come on.
Whiteness is and I'll explain that a little bit more.
Wait. Can you be white like I am and not have whiteness?
Yes. And she's going to explain it to you, what you have to do.
Oh, good. I've always wanted to know how to get rid of my inherent whiteness.
Yes.
Oh, come on, YouTube, you fuckers. Come on.
But
something's going on with YouTube, man.
And answer questions with questions. I will sit here and explain things all day long.
Something's going on with YouTube. Like, this video is taking crazy forever to be to process. Like,
one thing too that, she says people answer questions with questions. A lot of times when you are engaging in civil discourse, you do that to make sure you understand the terms that someone is using. So if somebody asks you a question and says, do you believe this country's white supremacist? You want to ask, what do you mean?
So, to take it back for you, the easiest way that I explain whiteness, whiteness is not phenotypic whiteness. There's white people and there's people who happen to be white, for sure, right?
Come on.
Whiteness is and I'll explain that a little bit more in a second. So I'm going to make that statement and I'll backtrack it.
Mm-hmm.
Whiteness is a set of ideologies, ideas, institutions, and policies that have explicitly been set up, rooted and born in white supremacy, predicated on the binary of white and black, good and bad, and all of the tropes that come with it.
You're the ones that created that binary.
In order to maintain oppression. Now,
like the war on
drugs,
for example. Like the war on drugs. When John Ehrlichman said, okay.
Now,
I think those things
fair, to be totally fair, the reason I say white folks and people who happen to be white is because anyone that is born in the world, because whiteness is global, can absolutely abide by tenets of whiteness. This is why we have Candace Owens. This is why we have Daniel J. Cameron. This is why we have black folks who will say critical race theory.
Did they just call Candace Owens white?
Yes. And every black person who opposes critical race theory is now white, has been indoctrinated into whiteness.
Doesn't that sound a little bit like Joe Biden saying that if you didn't vote for him, you ain't black? That sounds a little racist to me. I'm just saying.
Because they can access whiteness, which is bad.
I'm sure Candace Owens will be thrilled to know that she's actually white.
Because there is trauma rooted in that for marginalized folks. That means they try to increase their proximity to those ideals and those policies and those institutions for safeness. But at the end of the day, people who are phenotypically white have a choice.
I thought it was called safety myself.
Because we're all indoctrinated into whiteness. They can choose to continue to uphold the system that was built for and by them on our backs. Those are white people. And then there's people who happen to be white, like a Dr. K, who is a person who is phenotypically white, who is now committed to dismantling that same.
Wait. Are we saying that Kate here is transracial? Is that what we're saying? Is that what we're saying?
She is committed to dismantling the United States of America as we know it, because that's basically translating what this woman is saying. Because when she gives you this list of all the systems and the policies and the values and all her little list, what she's not telling you, I mean, she kind of is, and she will as we move forward, and she did with her little stint on capitalism, and she will when she talks about, reason and emotions and lived experience and evidence and things, is they're saying basically that all those Western Enlightenment values that we hold so dear and all the stuff about, scientific method and all the things that they actually said at the Smithsonian or whiteness, that those were only created to uphold the power of white people. Showing up on time, getting the right answer in math, like all of these things are part of this, are part of whiteness. And she's just not listing them. She's not listing them by name. She's using these blanket terms to keep it a little bit shielded, but it comes through. It comes through because, and she gets more explicit about it later. But yes, so Dr. K gets to be just a person who happens to be white because she's committed to basically hurting herself and all of Western values. She's committed to dismantling Western society. So it's okay. She's all right. But if you're a Black person and you like Western civilization and you want to continue to uphold it and you like the Constitution and you want to teach it to your kids, then you've been indoctrinated for your safeness.
System using her identity privilege. Correct. Does that?
Oh, good.
Correct.
And she works at the University of New Hampshire, FYI. Congratulations for those in New Hampshire. Kate's one of ours. Yeah. God. She's seriously insane. She did a whole webinar with UNH telling white employees to shut up and just accept this ideology. Literally, that was one of her slides. She said, shut up.
Breakdown, make it a little bit clearer.
Yeah, it's a theory. Okay. Yes.
It's not a theory.
It is a theory.
So a theory means that we can sit here and, right, like critical race theory, for example, that's a theory because there are tons of ways to go at dismantling systems of oppression. I will tell you myself, while I learned critical race theory, I don't necessarily use all of the tenets or agree with all of them or necessarily.
Wait till you hear why.
We can't blend a few different theories, right? That's why I'm super
good.
down for this conversation.
That's good.
But there are certain facts in our social fabric. This is why I asked the question, is racism real, so on and so forth. Whiteness is a construct that was 1000% created under
1000%
guidance at the birth of the enslavement of Black Africans and the human trafficking of Black Africans for the purpose of increasing wealth for Portugal because they could no longer tax their people. That was very intentionally fabricated through pseudoscience, through religion, and through.
Are the Portuguese considered white?
Well, it's not just that. What she's saying is she's acting like that his justification in a Christian world, in like the Catholic world that he was coming from, his justification for making it okay morally to own people, which was delineating by race, because we all know that race only serves a purpose of it is a construct. Race is a construct, not whiteness. Race is a construct. So, but she's acting like he invented slavery. Slavery pre-existed. Slavery has existed since the dawn of man. Slavery and human trafficking was already happening. But in order for Philip in Portugal to justify doing it and participating in it, because, other countries were like not on board with this exactly, it was kind of not okay with Christians to own people, then he had to come up with a reason. So it's like she takes a grain of truth and, pseudoscience, we're better than they are. We're, our skin color makes us better, or we're lighter skinned, whatever, to justify participating in something that was already going on to increase their wealth. So she takes some truth, and then she says he invented whiteness. But remember what they defined whiteness as. Whiteness was all of these values and systems of oppression, whatever, not just, I got to come up with a gross rationalization for owning human beings, even though I'm a Catholic king. Okay, that's a far cry from creating a social construct that's going to span the globe and take over every person with white skin so that we all are now forever changed. That's not true. There was plenty of white people, Puritans, etc., who still thought the owning of humans was an abomination. So while he might have invented this little gross rationalization, it didn't necessarily take across the white or Western world.
Alexandra says, what is up with the correct? Who is doing that? The translate? No, the Black guy is doing the correct. He's got a whole bunch of sound effects, apparently. Naruto, don't tell them about Jewish people in ancient Egypt. They don't care about the Jews. Come on. We don't care about the Jews. Come on.
History, right? So we cannot say it's a theory.
God. Come on, YouTube.
The other thing is, you notice how he goes, well, it's a theory. Whiteness is a theory. He's correct that this idea that there's this thing called whiteness and that it encompasses all the stuff is barely a theory. It's like this hypothesis. Okay.
It's not a theory. It's
okay. But then
we have so much empirical and historical evidence to tell us that these things are in fact real and true.
It's just not how it works.
No,
that's just not how it works.
Not how it works at all.
Those facts are true about what happened in history, but that doesn't make the construct of whiteness as you understand it in the 21st century applying to everything now true. That's a leap. That's a huge leap.
I feel so bad for this guy.
Okay.
Yeah. Oh, come on, YouTube.
Is the other thing updated or is it uploaded?
Not. It keeps processing. It's like processing forever and a goddamn day.
Well, it's long.
Yeah.
I'm sorry.
It's okay. This is not your fault. This is YouTube's fault. I just keep hoping that it's gonna get its shit together. Nice
Please
history
come
lesson.
to it with that agreement.
Okay,
Otherwise,
we're
I'll
good.
be honest. I don't see a point in having this conversation with you.
Right. He has
to don't have the conversation.
So sure. Yeah.
So he agrees. He agreed.
That's problematic, Will. I just need you to know that.
That's problematic.
Yeah. It is.
Why?
It is because the thing is this, right?
If he disagrees, he's wrong. If he agrees, he's wrong. He's a white man.
Behind you, and you know, you can say it's day, right? It's day. It's
listen
day,
to this,
day. And I could say, well, you know, I actually think it might be like night. It's like on the
but he doesn't get the same
right?
courtesy, by
and
the way.
If I can't acknowledge like the reality of what is there, it's like we can't have the same conversation.
It's not reality. It's your fucking opinion. Sorry,
you want someone to buy into a fantasy.
It's your opinion.
There may be some, look, like you said, you know, many of us live within silos, right? Sometimes you talk about it all the time. Like
he looks so defeated already. We still have an hour and a half left to go.
To break echo chambers, right? But we all live in echo chambers, whether or not we realize it.
Hold up, she's going to reject logic and reason, but scream about empirical evidence, both of which came from the Enlightenment, which they aren't a part of. Student in history.
How about capitalism is a thing? Capitalism is real, but then down in the comments, they're bitching about how he's took his property. Copyrights, my property, my work product. Oh, I thought it belonged to the
I didn't think property was okay.
Silos, but you're not really stepping outside of your silos as much as maybe we are afforded the opportunities to do it, like as much as we would wish we could, right? So right now you are stepping into a side of Teachergram, on a side of Instagram that maybe you don't get an opportunity to share space with, and you are hearing ideas and things and understandings that maybe you did not
understandings,
right? So whether or not I think we have to have the lens of discernment to understand that there is truth that you've not yet heard. And although it may be new for you,
it's just like a religious conversion.
It does not invalidate the reality of that truth, right? Like,
no, it's not a truth. It's your goddamn opinion.
Like we're tearing the validity of it. And let's not create a hierarchy of truth when there's truth and there's not truth.
There's also opinions.
Can I ask a follow-up question, Will?
Sure.
So you and I are both white identified. All things aside, put aside the discussions of capitalism, put aside the discussions of sexual identity, gender identity, where you're from.
I hope she doesn't take a paycheck.
Okay.
Our lives,
she does.
Are our lives easier in this country because we're white?
How would we know that?
How would we know? Compared to what?
Everything else aside. Yours and
no,
mine.
not necessarily.
How do you even know?
Do you have money or not?
Yeah, I think it's very dependent on the situation. I think there's a lot.
Everything else aside, all those other.
No.
We're not
how
it works.
That's not how it works, Kate, with a PhD, and you know that because you've written a goddamn dissertation.
Like situational, it could matter. Like there are certain situations where it's not good to be white, but I think overall, yeah, I would say it's probably better to be white. Like as far as like you get more.
I feel so bad for him. He was not prepared for this.
I think racism exists, so yeah, I would say so. I could go along with that. I think.
Is white privilege real?
Oh, here we go.
I think it's one. Yeah, I think in many situations, some situations it's not, but some situations it absolutely is. Yeah, and there's 1,000.
Look at her.
That's not good
Look at her.
enough.
She's like,
Yeah,
I can't even with him.
I can't be in this conversation.
Oh, yes, I can't.
Affirmative action is harmful.
Did you read the Sander and Taylor book? Mismatch?
She's drinking too.
Listen to
was
this.
all for affirmative action. Did you guys read that book?
I have
Mismatch.
not.
Okay. See. Okay. I want to answer, but here's my concern. I am worried that I have read White Fragility. I've read Ibram Kendi's How to Be an Anti-Racist. I've read Miranda Fricker, and I've read Allison Bailey, and like a lot of critical race theorists. But I don't know if you guys have read Helen Pluck-Rose, and are you familiar with Corey Valdery's Theory of Enchantment? Like I worry that
These are not critical. These are not critical race theorists.
Chloe Valdery is black. Why are you silencing the voices of black people, Kate? Why aren't you listening to the black woman, Kate?
They actually make fun of her coming up soon.
Oh, good.
Yeah.
Oh, good. Guys, while we're buffering, if you don't like us talking over the video, the link is in the description below. You can go watch it for. I don't know why people come to these things for reactions when they're like, why are you talking over the video? It's a goddamn reaction. I'm already fired up at this. Don't make me get fired up at the chat while we're buffering.
And we also don't know when they're going to
Those are
start.
not critical race theorists.
Allison Bailey.
No one you just named is a critical race theorist.
So what? That's exactly the point he's making. The point he's making is that you do not read things that are not critical race theorists. That's exactly the point. Saying they're not critical race theorists is proof.
I find it interesting too that Robin DiAngelo and Ibram X. Kendi are the people who are being read more in the universities and the schools than anybody else, more than all the
and White Fragility, you should have burned that book.
Yeah, no.
Really?
She never says why.
Probably because it's written by a white lady. I would think. I mean, I have to think, like, on some level, at some point they have to be pissed off that this white lady is making millions and millions of dollars off of this, and they're not.
Well, actually, she does kind of hint at it because she says that some other woman came up with the term white fragility.
Throw that in the trash.
Well, Kimberly Crenshaw.
To be clear, Kendi's How to Be an Anti-Racist is his personal experience. It is actually really problematic, and a number of anti-racist educators have broken down.
Oh, really? I was thinking about reading How to Be an Anti-Racist and destroying it on Twitter next week. I have it downloaded on the Kindle and all ready to go. I just don't know if I can take it. I don't know.
It's really problematic, Harlan.
Oh, God. Well, you know.
And she doesn't really explain why.
Well, Boston University is giving Kendi $25 million, and I find that really problematic.
Down why folks need to stop reading that book as their vademecum to anti-racism.
What about Barbara Applebaum?
Oh, come on, YouTube. For F's sake. Yeah, the bingo game, guys, is just thrown completely out the window at this point. I don't even know. This is not like the typical diversity training nonsense that we usually do on Fridays. Bingo doesn't really even seem to apply today. This is like advanced level CRT.
No.
Not critical race theorists.
None of these people are original
That's
CRT.
exactly the point. His point is that you don't read things that you don't agree with. Then you're like, but we don't agree with it. Yes, exactly, Kate. Exactly. Ugh, let's see how this processing's going. Come on, YouTube. I believe in you.
Even contemporary CRT styles.
Crenshaw?
Absolutely.
Crenshaw. That's it.
And Mary
Matsuda.
Oh, I didn't.
Mary Matsuda is critical legal studies.
Yeah, Mary. I'm sorry, Mary. Yeah, that's right. Yeah. So, but what I'm saying is, these are people that I've read, and I don't know if they were considered critical race theorists. They're critical theorists, but like the fact that you're not aware of Chloe Valdery is a concern to me, because she is an anti-racist who is Black woman, and she just has a different approach. But do you see what I mean? Because we say affirmative action. I read a book about affirmative action. I was all for it, and then I read this book that was talking about how poor Black communities are negatively affected by affirmative action. And I go, oh man, that sucks. So
but I'm asking you for your personal perspective, right? So like not, and I'm gonna be honest with you. Like I talk a lot on my platform about how academic elitism is extremely problematic, right?
Listen to this.
Name drop all these books. I read this book and this book and this book. Like I got the library and
remember this
into like bibliophiles.
Remember what he's saying.
Conversation, right? Like you don't have to bibliotrap.
How dare you read books?
See, I'm asking you like what's in your heart. What do you think?
What's your lived experience?
Not shielding ourselves with the thoughts of others.
I don't want to hear about the Black lady who doesn't agree with me.
Gives us comfort to use those people. I'm asking you from your heart.
Yeah, These are people
Do
who
you
form.
believe? Do you
That's all.
believe
He's
that-
accused of
that
using
affirmative
them as
action is
opposed to
problematic?
learning from them.
Yeah, it's like
I
tokenizing,
think
yeah.
we can do something better than affirmative action to close the achievement gap and lift up the Black community into higher education.
But the
How do
question
you do
was,
that
is
without teaching
formative
people
action
critical race theory?
How do
Can you
do that?
imagine not knowing how
Yeah.
to do that without using this?
Empowerment theories?
All the empowerment in the world isn't going to help communities if they're up against systemic oppression and disenfranchisement.
Oh my
I would say
god!
legalizing drugs would be
Hang
a great
on.
one.
I'm sorry. I know this is going to buffer like 16 times when I unpause it, but I have to say this. The fact that she thinks that Black people are not capable of empowering themselves unless white people are the ones lifting them up is one of the most incredibly goddamn racist things I have ever heard in my life. It is patronizing, it is condescending, and it is downright racist.
Exactly.
And regulating drugs would be a huge one. Huge.
That's a piece. That's the
What is wrong with these people? All right, I'm on beer
Lots.
too.
Okay.
Beer
I'm
too.
so
orange-
jealous.
That orange creamsicle beer was like not. It was all right. It was all right. Let's see.
But you remember he said, but this like academic elitism, right?
tiniest piece of a much
I-
larger equation.
Oh, I think that's a huge one. That's
Well, so
massive.
I'm gonna
It's gonna take a sec, guys. We're gonna get there. It's gonna be fine. I'm going to drink the Pucker Crush Blackberry Lemonade Sour Fruit Beer. John Morgan says, I think everyone is having trouble with YouTube. Yeah, I definitely think this is a YouTube problem because, wait, the video might be processed on my other channel. I see a thumbnail.
I'm going to jump in and say,
ahead,
since
Lee.
we want to play the I'm concerned game, the fact that you immediately went to drugs when talking about marginalized identities
Nope.
is
No, he
very
went to the
concerning.
drug war as a
though
policy.
Drugs and the legalization of
She's
drugs
trying to make it
is
ugly.
the exact sole thing that is somehow holding.
No, that's not what he said.
Have you accepted CRT into your heart as your Lord and Savior? Don't quit the words in your heart.
This is so annoying because talking about the drug war is talking about multiple issues simultaneously. You're talking about policing. You're talking about, a way that people make money.
Marginalized communities down.
It's the assumption that
there's an
Black people
assumption.
inherently are just using drugs, Will.
No,
That is
No!
not the assumption.
No,
Or more.
no one
But
assumes
Black
that.
people are locked up more.
Your pal keeps saying download the video. I have the video downloaded. I just can't play it in StreamYard when it's downloaded. I have to have it up on something I can view in Chrome. I'm trying. We're doing our best. Look how pretty this beer is, Deb. Look how pretty it is.
Ooh, it's purple. Love it.
Because it's not because the drugs aren't legalized. It's because drugs that are viewed as
that's a
Black
good one.
drugs are more heavily penalized, and our injustice system inherently penalizes marginalized individuals at much higher rates. I believe last time
That's
the
not what he was
statistics came out was
saying.
like
Not at all.
3.75% the rate their white counterparts solely for being Black for the exact same crimes. So
Black people-
again, like this isn't there's a quote that says, I don't want you to shoot white folks the way you shoot us. I want you to not shoot us the way you don't shoot them. So if we can just reframe our conversation, and instead of it being like, well, these things are really negatively impacting,
You just
you know,
reframed
Black
the
and brown
entire
folks, and so we
conversation. It was
should,
like
you
they
know,
take
we
a
should
nugget
change
of
it.
something.
Instead,
They're like,
maybe
okay,
we
we can
flip
do
it, and
that.
it's
Then they go in a completely different
accessibility.
direction.
It's removing barriers
Well,
to access.
can
It's
I say
removing
something
barriers
here?
to healthcare.
Yes, hang on,
Sorry,
hang on.
I know I hate to
That's
pause
That's
it.
all right.
because-
That's all right.
But here's the thing. Can you not shoot us the way you don't shoot them? That's statistically inaccurate. So again, she's taking a perception that Black people are shot more than white people by cops. Because that's what the statement, can you not shoot us the way you don't shoot them? When in fact, statistically, more white people are shot and killed by the cops than Black people are. Now, we also understand that part of that is that white people are in the majority population.
Right.
So we're taking a linear look at it, and you're going to have a higher number. So the issue has always been proportionality, not shoot us like you don't shoot them. It's don't shoot us more. But again, nuance is missing, because why are they getting shot more? And that gets back to the drug war, because more Blacks live in inner cities proportionally than poor whites. If we're talking about socioeconomics, who deals drugs, who uses drugs, it's a socioeconomic class. It's not a race. So urban, close together, committing certain kinds of crimes, more interactions with cops more often because you're in close proximity to each other, and there's neighborhood policing and all kinds of other things. You're going to have more interactions. Higher proportion of those are not going to go so well. And not for nothing, there's a cultural component, which John McWhorter has talked about and other people have talked about, where there's more resisting. Why is there more resisting? Because of BS like this telling you the cops are out to kill you. They're going to kill you. Oh my God. So you teach people that they got to fight back at every turn or they're going to be killed. And guess what? They get killed. Or that it's not going to be worth their while to go through the justice system because they're just going to throw them in jail anyway. So what he's trying to point out is the drug war, he's using like a colloquial sort of understanding of this is an umbrella that sucks up a lot of problems that we need to address and we need to talk about, that we could say is sort of systemically racist in that it disproportionately affects inner city Black people. And she's saying, no, that's racist. We can't, you're going to that because you're saying more Black people use drugs. No, that's what's causing the police interactions, et cetera, and so forth. And don't shoot us the way you don't shoot them. It's just this oversimplification. I got to get everything to a bumper sticker or a sign to carry to a protest. I'm not really interested in solving problems. I just want to shut you up and get my way.
I also just want to point out that this was supposed to be a conversation about critical race theory in K-12 education. And it's like, I feel like we haven't even broached that topic yet. He doesn't even understand what they're saying. They're not even bothering to actually like simplify it and make it a teachable thing. It's just like, this is about this group of people lecturing a white man. That's all this is about. He has to agree with their premises to even have this conversation. I think he did it just to, get on with it. But it's like, it's so crazy. Michelle Lee says, Carlin, is that a purple beer? Is that purple beer sour? It is. It is a blackberry lemonade sour beer, and it's delicious. All right. Digging in.
Every single fragment of life. But I want to take it back because I'll be honest, Will, I don't know you. I'm sure you are a lovely, well-intentioned human. You don't strike me right as a vile individual. No. But I don't believe in wasting my time with folks who are coming to the table saying that they want to have critical discourse or be able to have.
He's hardly said anything this whole conversation, have you noticed?
No.
And yet can't have rooted conversation, are not willing to have rooted conversation.
Rooted.
And cannot at the very base level agree that we have a socio-systemic political problem that oppresses marginalized folks.
If you don't agree with me, I can't talk to you.
If you can't agree to that, Shiv, I'm gonna be real. Like, I have other things to do.
Then leave. Leave. Leave.
I need you to agree with me on everything else.
Yes, you do. Obviously,
I don't even agree with all of critical race theory.
Okay.
But we have to at least agree on that founding principle.
Wait till you hear what she doesn't agree with about critical race theory. That'll blow your mind.
There is systemic oppression for sure, and that
I hate that he feels the knee-jerk need to agree with her.
He should have called her bluff. She ain't leaving this conversation.
Okay. And that it does.
There's several hundred people listening to her right now. She ain't leaving.
No, of course it impacts white folks. How does it? Of course, I can give you several examples. That's where I get confused.
Speak your piece, Will. How do you feel?
He's mocking and belittling him.
Okay, so Will.
Yeah.
Now, how do you feel that white Americans are impacted systematically because of their race?
It's not a contest.
How do I feel that they are?
That doesn't have to be true for the other to be false.
I think an example.
These people don't understand logic at all.
Affirmative action.
No, they don't.
So when I have students that are mixed race, they are going to write on their application that they're the marginalized. They're going to say that they're Hispanic instead of saying that they're white because it gives them an advantage.
Try.
So was it Bake versus California type?
I'll reach out, Jenny.
So I think it's less though, for sure. But I think that there are examples of that.
So Will, can I tell you, as someone who wrote extensively about affirmative action in higher education,
but we're not going to do academic elitism
of affirmative action policies in this country? White women.
Okay.
White women.
That's a flaw in the policy, bitch.
This is actually an invitation to you, because critical race theory here, you have a perfect example of what you think of as a liberal policy, right? Or you think of as a policy that is intended to create more equity in this country, right? Critical race theory is asking us to instead critique those liberal policies and actually think about the ways in which they might continue to disadvantage people
That's
or
fine.
communities
I don't
of
have a
color,
problem with that.
but just in a different way.
Yeah,
So a perfect case study is that for the states in this country that had affirmative action policies and then threw them out, the representation of people of color in their higher education systems across the board has been devastated. And I mean
But
devastated.
she just said that it disproportionately helped white
affirmative
people.
action to some extent works, and to some extent it continues to support white people. Critical race theory is simply asking
You have to pick one,
take a
dude.
lens that when you see things that we have been told as white people.
Hang on. Does affirmative action support white people or black people? Pick one. You cannot have you can't say both. You cannot say that it disproportionately impacts white women and then say that when affirmative action policies have been repealed or what have you, that it disproportionately affects Black Americans.
Well,
pick one. You can't do both.
And here's the thing, no one's questioning whether it's appropriate or legal to have affirmative action in the first place. I know the Supreme Court said it was okay in terms of admission policies and all these things, but that doesn't mean that morally or ethically it's right.
Guys, I just want to remind you that if we ever get some word salad in the chat, like we're getting from Kate right now, go ahead and click that salad icon. Fill the chat up with salad in honor of Kate. John says the only way to have a conversation with these people and defeat them is to be just as insane as them. Yes, John, that is 100% correct.
Are good. Our civil rights movements are equitable, are like anti-racist, that you're actually then saying, what is behind this? How do I know that this continues to maybe disenfranchise? All of the people that you cite as critical race theorists who are not critical race theorists, but maybe pose themselves as critical race theorists, are an example of that. If they are pushing back on the people who actually founded CRT, and these critical race theorists that you're citing are pushing back on the tenets of CRT, maybe that's worth examining and not just taking them at their word.
But they're not pushing back on the
of
tenets.
Looking at something like affirmative action, saying like, is this really doing what it was intended to do? I think, I'm on board with that 100%.
Is that not
basically right?
Is that not what critical race theory is asking, though? Is that not
no?
What we are giving the opportunity to?
It's gonna buffer. There it goes.
If I thought she were really looking at things like, lowering standards in schools, and was that a good thing for people? If I thought that that's what critical race theory was doing, was looking at the Democrats' policies and how they've completely decimated the Black family, I would support it. But that's not what they're doing. There's no evidence of that in practice.
Yeah, that sounds great. Yeah, I like that.
Can I just ask, because I'm going to tap out soon.
Oh my God.
And do
spent
it!
a whole lot of time basically trying to get Will to say that he believes that white privilege and systemic
agree with me.
oppression is real.
It's taking too long.
And caveats and what about?
I've done nothing to persuade him, but
Will, how do you?
She doesn't leave this entire video, does she?
Nope.
No, of course she doesn't, because she's got hundreds of people watching her. She just wants to be emotionally manipulative and say, I'm going to leave. Don't you have to agree with me to get me to stay, Will? Why haven't you agreed with me yet?
This stupid white man is so stubborn.
Wrong. He's expending too much of my emotional labor. I'm about to run out of spoons.
Because my understanding was you wanted to come to this conversation and you wanted to talk to us.
She's being antagonistic towards him. He's done nothing.
I didn't ask you to come talk to me, right?
Then go.
So how do you understand critical race theory? And based on that understanding, why are you taking the stance, from what I understand, is that we should not be teaching it?
Thank you, Lisa.
Yeah, so the take I got from critical race theory is that it's a theory where the lens is that it's from Mary Masuda and Kimberly Crenshaw. It is the primary reason for the gap in advantages and disadvantages in this country. That race is the primary reason for those things to occur, as opposed to, whatever, other criteria. I would say, that's the way that I kind of took it. That it's the primary reason for the advantages and disadvantages in society is because of race. That's the number one cause.
So to be clear, you don't agree with that?
I don't. No, see, that's the thing. I don't know. The reason why I don't want to have it in schools is because I am worried about that only being that being like mainline, not being able.
Hang on. Give it a sec.
So,
Deb.
no, I mean, as an educator myself, as a teacher myself, what I would say here is that I'm concerned, like kind of how he's about to say, that if it's the only truth.
It very well could be, Weezy, it very well could be. I want to know the social science behind it. And that's a worry for me, is that the social science behind these topics has been like corrupted and it's not rigorous. And I hope it to be rigorous, because I want to look at the social science.
Prove to me that you've done the work.
That it's across racial lines in these ways. But I think that it's become so politicized that it's hard to get at good social science, if that makes sense.
Yes.
Got it. So real quick, because I see people asking me this dumbass question in the comments, I can tap out of a conversation with white folks who continue to double down on whiteness if I good and well please. Because I am not getting paid to be here. I am not getting paid to educate. This is what I do because I'm
not paid to educate you, bingo.
And this is the work that I do. If Will wants to stay as a cis het white man who enjoys,
now we begin with the labeling.
More power to him.
They're going to start doing that every time they refer to him.
So if you're in this conversation, in these comments, coming from my soul because I choose to protect my peace over entertaining y'all and arguing with someone who doesn't want to agree with me,
go read her Twitter thread.
Go mind your business.
Oh God, I have to read her Twitter. Holy hell!
Everyone has the freedom to choose to be here or not. Number one, I will say I'm grateful that the three of you are here with me in this space, because we do too often. I talk about this, right? Like, number one, we can't fix racism as Black people only talking to Black people, right? Like, we can't find progress in social justice or in social movements or in moving humanity forward if we're only talking to people who agree with us. So I do believe this conversation stretches the tent in one way or another, and I believe that.
Oh my God, Andy's totally right. They're playing good cop, bad cop. That's what they're doing.
Our community.
This is all strategic. I bet they talked about it in advance.
But if someone doesn't want to be here, I ain't
well,
mad.
he actually said
cool.
that
Like, we gonna talk tomorrow. We'll talk later.
They
it's
were
whatever.
Texting
like
each other.
It's not a thing for me. And Will, more, I give you your flowers for standing in here, because you in the hot seat. It is what it is. But this is a conversation for me that is going to move the needle.
So I just want to point out, while it's buffering, like, all he did was say, show me that this is an academically rigorous discipline. And now we're on, I don't even need to be here. I don't even know why this white cis heterodox man is questioning me on this. And I need to save my emotional labor. Like, all he asked for was any evidence at all that this was not made up.
One way or another, people are hearing ideas or perspectives that we don't normally get to hear, and I think that gives us better understanding, because we're going to cross people who will say, I'm not.
Guys, if you haven't yet mounted that like button, it's not my fault YouTube is acting up today. Please mount that like button. We're doing the best we can over here, and we appreciate you hanging out with us on this glorious Friday.
I am totally sending you, direct messaging you a bunch of her tweets.
Oh, excellent.
Because they're gold.
For race theory, or I don't believe white privilege or a thing, or I don't believe whiteness is property, or, I'm against the 1619 project, or, whatever. And we need to have an understanding as to why people believe what they do believe. Will, what do you
might let him speak, and then you'd find out.
What do you see as being harmful when it comes to critical race theory and the use of it in schools?
Yeah, that's a great question, Chitty. I think that from my experience talking to lots of different kids who I taught who are Black, they feel like it has been some elements. I don't know if this is critical race theory, but the idea.
I want to know what you think, Will. Because it's the shielding with other people's voices that kind of becomes problematic, because it's like integrity is being transparent. Like, Weezy's being transparent. I'm being transparent. Slater is being transparent. We're asking you to do the same thing. And that transparency is going to allow us to really have an understanding, not of what these other academics believe, But what is Will?
You
Roosh
can't even
really-
answer
I
his
believe I got your
question
last
about
name
whether
right,
or not
but
it's
I
a
was
rigorous
butchering it,
discipline.
last
Most people
week,
get
I'm
that
sorry.
wrong. So.
Yeah,
Yeah,
but-
most people get that wrong. So thank you. Yeah, no, that's right. I think it can be very limiting. If
Come on, YouTube. Come on. Is this other guy, is this black guy on Twitter?
I don't think so. I don't know. He's big on Instagram. I've noticed there's a bunch
people
of people
are
only go
told
on
that
Instagram.
they are a part of something. Like racism's bad. We agree on racism's bad, right?
Yes, agree.
You don't agree on the
So
definition of racism.
Someone who is racist.
They have a different definition.
That's a negative. You don't want to be called a racist. So I would say that saying that white people, just by being white, are racist, then that is essentially vilifying someone for something that they have, their immutable characteristics. There's nothing that they can do. I think that's not good for white people. And then for black people, I think this is why I think it gets to people say it's divisive. If for black people to say that you are in this country that is just victimized you and your people over and over and over and over and over again is less of a focus on yes, and there's no better place to be black than America. And America in the 21st
Look at her
century.
face.
Like, black people would not want
Look at her face.
they would not want like a time machine, right? Like
Where would you like them to
not be
go,
good.
honey?
It was bad.
Where's
Then
it
It was
better?
really bad. And it's better now. You guys
Move.
disagree that it was
Well, I'm white, and that's a hard disagree.
Kate is embracing her whiteness
Because
for
she
this
knows.
brief
Because
moment.
she knows she knows what it would be like to be black anywhere else on the planet. She knows that. Where might that be? Because she forgets too. All these people act like the worst thing in the world is for somebody to hate you because of your skin color or because of your immutable characteristic. Now, I'm
so
Jewish.
it was better to be black in when? In where?
No,
North
I'm
Korea?
saying, first of all, it's wild to me that you and I as white people are speculating about where in this world it's good to be a black person. Like that I can't even go into
Statistically.
that. But saying
You're
that
a
America is the
PhD in
best place
critical
to be a
race
black
theory,
person
Kate.
in this world, that takes an incredibly one-dimensional view.
So what would,
No, it doesn't.
I'm curious. Is that
I could not even begin to speak on this. Could not.
Yes,
Well,
you
let me
can.
help.
It's called
Yes, you
science.
can. Yes.
Let me help.
Life expectancy, income level, educational opportunity,
Happiness.
White man.
okay?
When
Political
you
freedom.
speculate on the perspective of black people, you lost.
Oh,
He's not
So
my
where is better? Can you
Oh my
explain
God.
it then?
He's
I
not
wanna learn.
speculating on
Where
their
is better?
perspective.
So
He's speculating
that's
on the
maybe
demographic
that's the
aspects
question
of
you
their
should ask.
lives.
I
But
am.
when no, I got you. But
No, you
spoke-
don't.
You professed, you proclaimed before.
Everything's
you
an
asked,
emotion.
you stated. You get what I'm saying? So like as soon and Will, this is just moving forward in life, bro. Because these are look. We are all learning creatures, right? Like all of us. Okay.
Some more than others.
And I may have more. I have more patience. I'm just.
Can
gonna
you
name it. I
stop
have
for
more
1 second?
patience.
I gotta say something. This
Yeah.
is like
Yes,
burning
do
a
it.
hole in my
Do
throat.
it, Deb. Do it. Let it out.
Okay. When people are the only appropriate way to look at people as groups is to depersonalize them and take the emotion out of it and look at measurable statistics, right? It's what they're happy to do when talking about incarceration rates. It's what they're happy to do when talking about graduation rates. They're happy to do it when they're talking about all kinds of statistics where they'll say, now we can talk about it as a monolith because we're only using numbers. I believe, and I'm open to be contradicted by Will if you get him on the show, but I believe that when he said there's no better place, he wasn't talking about it for my little heart of hearts. He's talking about statistically based on what she said before, if you could take a zip code and you could calculate your life expect, all this other stuff. He's talking about for all of the oppression, et cetera, to teach a child that honestly, even though not everybody loves you and there might be, still some residual bad stuff out there and bad ideas in people's heads, as long as politically you have political freedom, economically you have opportunity, educationally you have opportunity, and no one is literally imprisoning you, literally holding you back, that this is the country where, it would be the best to be, by the way, any human of any color, but specifically black. And he's saying on those impersonal things. So I can't speak to anyone else's soul or where they want to live. See, he's talking specifically about based on race alone. And I will say as a Jew that as a Jew, with all the anti-Semitism on planet Earth, it's still safer and better for me to live in the United States than in most other places on this planet where they could kill me and nobody would do a damn thing about it. I don't believe for a second that everybody here thinks that's awesome, that Jews are great. I know there's anti-Semitism, and I'd still rather be here than be in France or in Germany or in half of the other countries in the world where, they'll be like, oopsie, there goes another one. So I think that's what he's talking about. He's not talking about it's peaches and cream every day. He's saying on the measure of statistical analysis and demographic analysis, social science, which of course they don't want to practice except when it suits their purposes.
No, because they've already ignored the question of if there's any academic rigor behind what they're doing, because of course they can't present any evidence that there's academic rigor behind what they're doing. So they moved right past and they called him racist for even daring to ask the question. And now he's making a very important point. It's like, I'm sorry, of all the times in history, it's pretty damn good to be in America right now.
And we've never lived longer. We've never been richer. And even the poorest person in America, okay, the poorest, especially black person, the poorest black person in America is still rich by comparison to most of black people in the rest of the world, even in countries where there are almost no white people. And the last thing I want to say on this topic, I'm sorry to take up so much time on this one thing, but you notice how quickly they made it personal. And remember that the topic is teaching in K-12 classrooms. This man
talked about it.
This man is talking about it. He is saying that he has a responsibility to the children in his classroom to not make everything about negative, and say to them, but it's still really awesome that you're here. And you still have opportunity here. And that even if your people have been oppressed, that doesn't define you. That doesn't mean that this is the end of your story. Tomorrow can be better.
Which is
he has a responsibility to those children.
Yes.
Which they seem to think that the responsibility is to tell them how miserable everything is or to say nothing. I can't speak to you at all about anything good or bad because I am not the same color as you.
Listen, there's research out of the University of Pennsylvania that says that one of the number one drivers of people actually being successful in real life is believing that success is possible.
100%.
If any of these three people were teaching children in their formative years that you are a victim of the world and you live in a horrible place that
whiteness is going to do you in.
That whiteness will do you in. You don't have any opportunity. I'm sorry. That's just the card you drew in life. They are setting these kids up to be victims for the whole rest of their lives. That is child abuse, so far as I'm concerned.
Agreed. Sorry. I
just want to I think Colin made a really good point here. They cannot use statistics because that is a tool of the master, and we live in a country founded on whiteness. Constantly.
Most black people, because I am a black man who grew up with a father that was a Panther, a Morehouse man, an active NAACP member.
It's going to take a second now. God. Look at Kate's constantly furrowed brow, too. She's like the disapproving crone, is what she is. That's her whole role in this conversation. Kate, I really want to have you on this channel. Call me Kate. Call me Kate.
Right? But I also have a stepfather who is a white man that lives in rural Pennsylvania, who is conservative and a Trump supporter. Okay? So I have these type of conversations at the dinner table growing up my whole life, right? Everybody don't have time for this. I got time.
They always talk about how much time they don't have to have these conversations while they're actually having the conversation.
Try to
they're very busy.
Things from black perspective. When you try to profess anything about something from black perspective. I remember it was a conversation we had Dr. Slater and I the other night. I don't remember what it was, and I don't even remember what I asked you, but it was something about black folk or something. And Slater was like, that's not my place, right? In response to me asking this question, it was really inappropriate for me to ask that question. And she called, like, I felt called in and out. Like, oh man, why you even ask her that, right? Don't do that. Like, that's a hard don't do that.
So, okay, so I was just saying in general, like,
they literally told him what he's not allowed to say.
Most immigrants, people trying to get into the country from all races, where's the number one place in the world that people want to get into?
America.
So that's just why. But tell me where's better, because I want to learn.
That's also, but that right there is signaling American exceptionalism.
Oh, God forbid.
Oh my God.
Yeah, I like
God forbid.
I do too. I love
better?
America, but that doesn't mean that. But loving in America and American exceptionalism.
It's a good question, Von Cobra.
For sure. I think America definitely. I mean, it has a lot of flaws. But can you just educate me now? Where is a better place? Maybe Weezy.
He asked the black man to educate him. It's going to go downhill.
Wrong, I get that I'm wrong. You guys are saying like, you're wrong. Don't do that. Don't do that. Please tell me what is false.
Now they're going to say it's not their job to do
assumption. I'm open to being wrong. Like, okay, that assumption was wrong. But like, tell me if you can. Like, I'm gonna try and learn.
I don't even know, Will. I don't know that that's even in a.
He's absolutely going to be wrong for asking them to educate him. Absolutely, 100%.
Well, if you can't teach kids to love their country and the opportunities that they have, then like, don't teach.
I mean, can they give a better example? Like, why do these people want open borders if they don't like? I don't understand.
Because
it's not an appropriate question to ask.
Of people that are of the global majority is happening all over.
I'm gonna make an icon, a chat emoji of Kate with her furrowed brow.
We are seeing what's happening in Ethiopia right now. We are seeing what's happening here in America right now. We are seeing marginalization all over the place. So it's kind of like, would you rather be stabbed or shot? Right? Like it's there's problems everywhere. Okay.
Sure. The way they describe living in this country, you would think
that ain't it. I think what you want to ask is, how do we get to liberation, global liberation? How do we get?
You're starting to catch on?
How exactly does this guy have a successful Instagram channel? I just don't understand, because it seems to me that just living in this country would leave him stabbed or shot or in jail for something he didn't do. How is he able to have this whole studio with a very nice $400 microphone and have a whole audience online and have hundreds of people watching him on Instagram? How is this even possible in the United States of America? I don't know, Deb. I don't know.
It's a mystery to me.
I am literally right this second making an emoji with Kate's furrowed brow. Stand by.
That's where we want to be, right? Like, because it ain't sweet anywhere for us.
Okay. Yeah, no, agreed that the world is messed up. Maybe America, I just think, is like the least messed up. But I'm with you that America is, not America, the world is.
So, Will, going back to CRT, because again, this is the only thing I can talk about, but this is a perfect framework. Just because America has, in many ways, many things going for it, ostensibly democracy, ostensibly representative democracy, doesn't mean it doesn't have a long history of oppression and oppression living out in the present day. And so this is why CRT is a perfectly appropriate framework, because what it asks K-12 students to do is not sit there and say, America's the best country in the world for Black people.
And guess what? The way they teach history in school is not that either. It's not an either or. It's not an either or. We can not ask children to think America is the best thing since sliced bread without critical race theory.
Wait. This pause on Kate is even better than the last one I got.
Discussion.
It
allows them to say, what are all the things that we are not doing well? What are all the problems?
I really wish I got a screen cap of that last one, because that last one was good.
They act like there's no other solution. There's no other way. These poor children, if we don't teach them this theory, they're just going to go out there and be it's going to be awful. All the white ones will be white, full of whiteness and racism, and the Black ones will continue to be victims.
How can we reflect critically on how the problems of the past are living out in present day in a different format? This is why CRT is a great tool in the classroom.
No, it's not.
No,
that's not their job.
I want to open the floor for Weezy real quick, please.
So I'm going to say this. I said it in the beginning. Marginalized folks are not monoliths. What is good for one is not good for all. I am racially ambiguous and a whole light bright. What works for me is not going to work for Shivy, who is visibly Black, who is not going to work for somebody who is, Dominican, is not going to work for somebody who's from
What's she
Haiti,
saying?
so on and so forth.
What's going to work?
Whether they're immigrants or whether they're American born. We are not monoliths. And so
except when we are,
some
apparently.
might pursue as a goal may not be good for others.
The sun rises in the east and it sets in the west. Okay, and can you say something of substance?
I'm going to work on getting a Kate t-shirt. Don't you worry. We're going to work on Kate, I'm going to have you on this channel. I'm going to monetize your ass on this channel, Kate. One way or the other. Wheezy sells a 4-part series, deconstructing. Oh God, no kidding.
And so that's the first thing.
I might have to
White
buy
people aren't
that.
monoliths
I'm gonna have to
either, or are they?
crowdfund that.
I never said that they were. I said no identity exists as a monolith. So that's the first thing. But my point in that is to hold the idea that you can specifically ask a singular person of any identity to speak for a global identity is
But I have a course
Absurd.
on whiteness.
right. So that's first, because what that also does then, that allows us to find Black folks or Latina folks or Asian
But I
folks.
define white women on Twitter all day. All day.
All
White
day.
women. White women, white women, white women. We're a monolith. Did you know?
Apparently.
Mm-hmm.
Oh my God.
I'm sorry. I'm going to shut up because we'll never get through this. Keep
That's
going.
okay. It's buffering, man. This is you know.
Or indigenous folks who, like I said, because they've been traumatized to whiteness, are attempting to increase their proximity to whiteness, and thus they uphold whiteness and agree with you, right? That's
There's no
confirmation
other
bias.
reason they could
And
possibly
so
agree.
instead,
no other reason.
we want to make sure that we're having conversations, understanding that people are multifaceted and nuanced, and they are more than just their identities. And so what
She
might
literally
be
just
good for
contradicted
also,
herself.
Like a Black
Oh my God.
trans,
Except they're
femme
all
might
just
not
want to be
good
white.
for a cis Black man, so on and so forth. So that's that. Second,
Wheezy. Oh, I'm sorry.
Yes.
Go ahead.
No, go ahead.
There's a question in the question box from Dr. Sheldon McAfee, and I believe that's a he. I can't tell. The circle is so small. Well, Sheldon. So he asked, who are CRT theorists that you would suggest, right? Because Will named a few people. Obviously, they're not CRT theorists,
but
etc.
we're not going to get into
I'm a
the
learning person
academic
too, so,
elitism.
put me on.
No.
Who are some people you would suggest? Dr. Slater, same question after Weezy.
Yeah.
Make sure you're reading the right academic elitist. Guys, I did just add a Kate furrowed brow emoji to the chat. So if you are a member on the channel, you now have access to the Kate furrowed brow emoji. Congratulations. If you are not a member yet on the channel, you can join the channel. It helps support my work, and I greatly appreciate it.
And this is where I won't say I agree with Will on many things.
And if you are already in the chat, you might need to reload to get that to work. I had to reload on mine, but she's there in all her glory. Kate furrowed brow. Chat, you might need to reload. Oh.
I'm looking. I want to see this. Oh my God.
But I will agree on the way in which theories can be perversed. And so I tell everybody, if you are going to read any theory and if you are going to educate yourself at all, especially
Deb, we still have another hour of this. I don't know if I can make it.
But the really good part's coming right here. Everybody needs to listen about how the theory gets perversed. Listen closely to what she analogizes critical race theory to. This one, I screen grabbed this little clip because when it's coming up, because wow.
I'm focused.
Around CRT, go to the originators of those that birthed the theory. First of all,
Derek Bell.
Yeah, exactly. Yeah. Derek Bell, Crenshaw. Like, we actually went through this already last time, right? Like, CRT is not that old. Right. Many of them are still, like, Kimberly Crenshaw did a TED Talk not too long ago on it. Like, it's still alive and well. So that's the first thing. Make sure you actually go to those that created the theory and read it from their perspective. Learn it in its original form. Because what does happen, let's use religion as an example. Faith and spirituality gets put in a text, and then people get their hands on it, and it starts to get perverse, right? Like, how many versions of every religion do we have? And we have extremists, and, right? Like, and that's across the board in every faith-based system.
And every faith-based system!
CRT is no different. And so,
it's a freaking religion!
They literally just admitted it's a religion!
Thank you! They did it! She analogized to a freaking faith-based system, and it's perversed, whatever that means.
And Kimberly Crenshaw is the founding goddess of the religion.
And Derek Bell.
And Derek Bell. Well, I mean, he's a man, so come on.
Yeah.
bring it back to something that Will said, which is the entire reason that we're here, which was his concern is not that he doesn't agree with CRT necessarily, but that he's concerned that it's going to be perverse and not taught properly.
Perverse.
That is not the responsibility of CRT. The onus of that is not on CRT. The onus of that, we are all.
It's a science, but it's not our responsibility for it to be used properly.
It's not our responsibility to teach it properly. Come on.
No, she's blaming the teachers. They're blaming the teachers, and this woman trains teachers. So Kate trains pre-service teachers, and she's a critical race theory scholar. And then they're saying, well, if they don't implement it right, or if they do it wrong, and it's like, I got news for you. Nobody perversed biology. Nobody perverses physics. Nobody perverses, the hard science. If this is an actual science and there's actual empirical evidence and it's really that easy to understand and it's so full of truths, then it should be fairly easy to reproduce in the classroom. Okay? And the only things that don't reproduce very well across a large audience are pseudoscience and religion, because you cannot keep your own emotions out of it. So this is pseudoscience, and I'm being generous, or it's a cult, minus a big leader. But to blame this on like, well, other people do it wrong. Where have we heard this before? That wasn't real communism.
No, it's not real communism. Mao's not real communism. No. They did identify their leader, though. They said Kimberly Crenshaw gave a TED Talk not too long ago. It's still alive and well.
All educators in our own right. The onus of that is on the educators.
It's going to buffer for a second. Guys, every time they explain something to Will, I want to see the chat filled with Kate emojis.
Has anyone been keeping track of how little Will has actually spoken? Have you noticed that he came on for a conversation to ask questions and get questions answered? They have not allowed him to ask any questions.
To go into classrooms and make sure that we are honoring CRT and how it was taught, that we are teaching it like any science, both from understanding and intellect,
science
into applied knowledge, and that we are preserving it in its true state and form. That is where I think any theory can become a weapon, is when you put it in the hands of an educator who doesn't have a proper grasp on it, or is intending to use something that is systemically or based on the framework or contextually really powerful, and misuses it for any reason. But I don't think that we blame that on CRT.
No.
Well, no, I know that we cannot blame that on CRT.
Actually, we can.
Right? Or on Derek Bell or Crenshaw, or we can't do that.
Mm-hmm.
If
yes, we can.
Educators are not good educators, if they are in the classroom and they are not good at their job,
you're in charge of training them.
There's an awful lot of them.
Correct.
Yeah, I'm on board with that, because this teachers talk to me about how their school's rolling out this stuff about how the white kids need to be punished for their historic oppression and stuff like that. It's like, oh my god, like
who's doing that? Who's doing that?
A lot of.
I mean, I'm sure it's happening.
They do this all the time. They're not doing
that.
But there's a lot.
Where's that happening?
It's going on. I mean, I think that's why maybe we're onto something. Maybe we're getting somewhere, guys. Maybe that's why there's so much negativity around this, is because maybe it's being done badly by the vast majority.
And look at Kate going, but no, honey, we've literally observed you doing it right here.
Sources, which is exactly what we says. You need to go to the sources. Well, I'm not going to.
But I guess those people weren't critical race theory.
You need to have a personal relationship with Jesus Christ.
That was really disturbing.
Or Kimberly Crenshaw.
Was it Christy Dodson? Is that what her name was? I forget. Someone saying
do one Kimberly Crenshaw, two Tarek Bells as penance.
This is really dangerous stuff. But if she's not a critical race theorist, then we need to separate who are these people are bad, pushing bad ideas. And I would love to get the critical race theorists, maybe the two of you ladies, maybe that would be amazing if well, they're bad and they're causing real strife in my world of
face
CRT,
is killing me.
He's trying to be reasonable and they're like, no.
I would love to be able to delineate from those. Does that make sense?
Well, I think you also have to have the lens of discernment yourself, right? Because you're picking you're cherry picking.
No, he's not cherry picking.
Well, I'm getting whatever I can.
And using them as the crux, as to why you have a particular issue with a overarching framework that these people do not define.
Yeah. There are a whole lot of people who call
They
themselves
are defining
critical race
it.
theorists who do not know CRT, just like there are a whole lot of people who call themselves anti-racists that don't know anti-racism.
Well, if
okay?
it's so
Just 'cause
difficult,
they call
maybe it
themselves that doesn't
sucks
mean they're actually
as an
walking the walk.
applicable theory to
you
solve
can.
problems.
Yeah. No, I'm with
So,
you.
teach me, teacher host as he said, Wheezy says she didn't agree with all the parts of CRT.
Wait, get
What
this.
are those? That's a good question.
So
Oh, YouTube's gonna keep us in suspense.
Yeah, her reasoning for why she doesn't like it is fabulous.
No, I can't wait.
But yeah, I mean, I love this how like it's not really our fault that you don't understand it. It's such great cover for so many things. Or you're cherry picking. No, he's not cherry picking. This is being used all over the place, and we know why.
it's in practice, right? The way that I was taught
It's gonna
CRT,
buffer again. Hang on. There it goes. I'm understanding the method of YouTube's madness at this point. Hang on. Ooh, thank you, Half Orc Fighter, for becoming a channel member so you can get access to that Kate furrowed brow emoji, which we will be using every week on Friday at 3 p.m.
And I can name that this could be, right? Like I learned it from Dr. Victoria Robbins like years ago at Berkeley.
Berkeley.
This is
That explains it.
like an educator's perspective, but the way that I was taught it, I think personally, we, so don't let this be for any other anti-racism educator, anti-oppression educator, I think it leaves too much room to placate whiteness.
That's one of Will's complaints. I think that's one of Will's complaints as well.
Look at Kate in the corner.
I'm pretty sure that's not one of Will's
Yes,
complaints.
queen. Yes, queen.
That he's tapped into or that he cites, and I've gone in and I do my homework. I go in there and I listen to the folks. I'm watching their videos and whatnot.
Understand that most of his audience are teachers.
Like some of these folks that you be tapping
That's
into,
insane.
Just so you know.
I don't know, but you got to find a better way to spend your time. but
I'm not sure you're talking about specific. Maybe you can tell me in the DMs.
We'll talk later. But yeah, like it's when you say placating whiteness, what do you mean by that? Do you mean like specifically white liberalism? Like what are we
just generally whiteness is the social construct that Dr. Kate and I have already laid out.
That no one understands because you're incoherent.
Room for us to do this like kind of cushy, coddly placating. And I think honestly, that's why it's 2021 and we're only now maybe even starting to be able to potentially have these conversations in an honest and thoughtful way that puts a hard line at like, nope, that's problematic. Nope, I'm not giving you that leeway. Like I can honor your humanity without coddling your whiteness. Because I don't think that I think it's a disservice to anyone because again, if you showed up late, I'll reiterate this. All of us are indoctrinated into the social construct of whiteness. So all of us are capable of reproducing it, regardless of social identity.
She has yet to identify how he's doing that.
Start to actually say,
I would like some empirical evidence that anyone is indoctrinated into an idea called whiteness. Where is the proof of this?
What they're basically saying, that's why I keep trying to get parents and everybody to understand this. That whiteness is a stand-in for the thing they don't want to say because people will immediately react against it, and that is Western Enlightenment values and capitalism. Civilization as we know it, the country as we know it, they are saying we're all indoctrinated into that, meaning we're all taught that it's good. We're taught that all the civil rights we have, the Bill of Rights, that people have to be treated equally under the law because they would like to not do that. They would like to treat white people not the same as Black people. And they would like that to be legal. They don't want to use reason and scientific method. They want to use their feelings and just basically be able to judge and discern and whatever they want it to be. They want to set their own standards and just erase merit completely. And all those things have to go under the heading of whiteness to make them something ugly, like universally ugly. Because if they told you what they really want to get rid of in explicit terms, 99% of America would be like, in a pig's eye. We're not doing that. We're the United States of America, and we have some problems and some flaws, and we're not all, some are Democrats, some are Republicans. This isn't political, but we want to still stay a free country where we all treated equally under the law. Thank you very much. So she calls it whiteness, and suddenly that's like, we're all indoctrinated in whiteness. She means we're all indoctrinated into actually thinking that our Constitution is okay.
Ding, ding, ding.
I'm going to name whiteness when I see it. I'm going to stop it. I'm going to address it. I'm going to challenge it, right? I'm going to meet whiteness with fire.
And we're going to meet you with bigger fire.
Allow for what MLK refers to as
we have more
the white
viewers
moderate.
than you do.
That's honestly what I think is the
She
biggest
actually
problem.
invoked MLK.
And I think because of that, that's where I challenge parts of CRT. And that's why I said I appreciate and love parts of it, and I can still criticize it and critique it.
Which is healthy.
She didn't even understand it.
Deb, wouldn't it be awesome if you and I debated Kate and
Abby
Weeze?
Corman said,
No.
Will, are there certain ways you think it's appropriate to teach? about
They don't
race
deserve
and
our
how
time.
do
But it'd
you?
be fun.
Do you see any problems with curriculum you've seen?
Yeah, I talk about race for sure, especially as a history teacher too.
Oh no, he's setting
But
himself up.
in government, when I talk
Totally
about the
is.
reason I brought up drug, and we don't have to go back into it, but the war on drugs is because I think that's just a very clear example. Sometimes when we say
Don't do it.
systemic oppression,
Don't do
that's
it.
vague for a lot of people, especially young. It's just like, well, what do I aim at? It's like, well, it's everywhere. It's like water. It's like, well, I don't know how to.
You know what I feel like right now? I feel like when you're driving down the street and it's like a rock, it's about to hit your windshield, and you see the rock coming in slow motion. And you're like, no. That's exactly what I feel like in this moment when he's bringing up the drug. Where I'm like, don't do it, don't do it. They're gonna hit you. It's gonna be bad.
Combat that. Like, do I just rip down everything? So using the
Buffer. I knew it was gonna buffer.
Just so everybody knows too, like Will is a progressive. Will actually is in support of to a degree of reparations. He does seem, he says this kind of later on. I'm just saying it only because in case we don't get to it. But I just want you to understand that he classifies himself as a progressive. So,
Some would say you should.
Yeah, that's scary. That's a scary thing. Ripping down.
I'm actually not in favor of reparations.
okay,
Truth be told.
this where he just said it's scary, ripping down. Okay, listen to this. This is cool.
Oh, okay, listening. Trying to listen.
Well, they're talking about ripping down institutions.
Everything is a terrifying concept.
It's also scary to be Black in America.
Yeah, but not as scary as losing all institutions, right?
Not for us to say, Will. Not for us to say,
Oh,
Will.
fuck you, Kate.
Well, I mean, if you say get rid of policing or something like that, so there's no policing, that would be
He's allowed
really
to express an
bad
opinion.
for poorer communities.
So
which
you
are
sound like a person who kind of misunderstands some of the language when people talk about the problems of policing and where we should be allocating our.
No, I agree, but
we just
some people
disagree.
just liberal
We
white
don't
people
misunderstand. We
have said,
disagree.
just get
It is
rid
a
of policing.
difference
Like, I have friends up
of
in Portland.
opinion. That's all this is.
You're not going to deperson me because I have the wrong color skin.
He is allowed to express an opinion. Kate. Kate's only job here is to tell Will that he's wrong.
Yep.
That's it. That's her only job. That's why she's here. That's why they have another white lady on
It's
the
not
show.
for us to
Not
say
for
that
white
it's
people to
terrifying.
express an
Just get rid of
opinion.
all cops. And again, that's a minority of people. But that idea of just ripping. I'm all for changing the systems to make it more equality, even equitable. I'm down to do that. But I think we need specifics on how to do that. But I'm down for I'm a progressive, believe it or not. Maybe not by everyone's
Will, you're a
definition.
libertarian, my G.
Oh
You're a
my
libertarian.
God! They're defining his lived experience.
No.
What does he say that's libertarian?
I'm not even against the idea of reparations. That's not libertarian at all. I can be okay with reparations. Sandy Darity's stuff about baby bonds and specifically for ADOS and stuff like that. I think it's complex. I just like the complexity, I suppose. But no, I'm really not a libertarian. I'm really not.
Why are you defining
There's
as
nothing wrong with being a libertarian, Will.
No.
Yes, I think it's okay to talk about race. Yeah.
In what ways?
Depends on the situation. I don't like the idea of monoliths, like you said. I think we're all really on board with that. White people are this. White people experience this. Black people experience this, because that's not been my experience. And talking to very diverse people, my family's very diverse, stuff like that. People are individuals. So I think that I look at it through a history lens. I talk about whatever, the Tulsa riots or something like that. That's a good example of where race has to come up. Not just for the Booker T. Washington of how that was grown in a very impressive way during Jim Crow, which is an important part of that lesson, but then also how it was destroyed by the bigotry and racism in Tulsa in the early 1900s. So yeah, I bring it up for sure. I don't shy away from it.
What do you think is your biggest misconception about CRT?
He hasn't had any questions
apparently,
How would
answered.
he
How would he
know?
know?
Read it. Like all the talk about social identity. That was Alcoff, right? Linda Alcoff wrote on social identity. So I read about that and I was like, well, that's not. I don't know. That's not how lots of Black people that I'm friends with seem to identify and stuff like that. So I think that's the problem. Is I've been reading a lot of people I thought were critical race theorists or critical theorists, and I guess they're not. I don't know. I guess they're not.
Even Kimberly Crenshaw says that
Will,
they
can
are.
I?
By the way.
And I'm sorry,
they're wrong.
Shibby, because this is another. I'm just going to put more
Kate
people on your reading
Furrow.
list, Will, and I'm sorry about this. So I taught
Furrow brow.
pre-service teachers how to teach history.
How to teach history.
At
She
University
taught
of New
teachers
Hampshire,
how to
which is a
teach
wild
history.
experience. And so I'm connecting this to the book that we read, which was Eduardo Bonilla Silva's Racism Without Racists. And it is a wonderful book because it talks about the central frames of colorblind racism and how damaging those frames are. And one of them is abstract liberalism. And what that means is people like you and me, white people, who identify with all of the claims of liberalism, who identify with things like equity, who identify with racial justice in the conceptual way, but are not actually interested in critiquing the systems and structures that are underneath that, and are not actually, to that point, and to Weeze's point, and to Shivvy's point, interested in divesting themselves from those structures that they benefit from, excuse me. And those
Why
systems
would
that
you
they
want it?
benefit
Why would
from.
anyone divest
I'm
themselves from
connecting that
something
to
that
teaching
works?
because I think if you are teaching about race and racism in a way that's not deconstructing the power dynamics that are inherent there, if you're just saying, I talk about race because people who have other racial identities experience this thing in history without thinking about the power dynamics that underlie why these events happened, why perhaps these stories are told in a particular way, how these narratives connect to other narratives, then you're not teaching history in a way that centers a critical lens. You're not teaching history critically. I'm saying that really imperfectly, but you catch my drift?
You mean you're teaching what happened instead of a radical left-wing interpretation of what happened?
I wonder how much of it is it a white thing or is it you ever read Guns, Germs, and Steel?
Mm-hmm.
Like
no, she didn't. Lee, she lied. Did you see her face?
Yeah.
Very like
she didn't fucking read it.
Logical.
No.
I mean, I don't know if you agree with that book or not. It seemed pretty well structured. Like
she's not saying a word about the book. She didn't read the book.
How much of it was the colonists just had these tools, Guns, Germs, and Steel, to do really horrible things.
It's a great
so they
book,
did
by
really
the way.
horrible things compared to like the Comanche were doing really horrible things, but they were limited by the weapons of war that they had. Did they not do more because they couldn't do more, or because they were morally not able to do more? Does that make sense? You see what I'm saying? Like,
are you aware that Africans
She's gonna threaten to leave again
to mainland America?
Oh, this is gonna blow your mind.
No, I mean, no, I knew like Vikings and stuff like that. I mean, I'm sure there were small.
So I said Africans, not white people.
I'm sorry?
I said Africans. I asked you about Africans, not white
No,
people.
I know. No, I didn't know. I would like, what was the situation?
And he's laughing at him.
So,
well, why didn't they colonize? Probably didn't have the Guns, Germs, and Steel,
Listen to
right?
this.
no, they didn't have the nature to do so.
They didn't have the nature.
What?
It was like an indigenous nature.
They just, it's just in you.
In other words,
to colonize.
and you and I talked about this before, right? You asked me about individualism, right?
Mm-hmm.
When we had that brief conversation when I was driving in the car, and I said to you'd asked me about individualism. You started going through all of these different cultures, right, throughout the globe. You were like, do Asian people think it's individuals or villagers, right? And I said to you, I see the world as a villager. I move as a villager.
What does that
right?
mean?
Meaning as Black people,
only
much
Black people
of
can
our
be villagers.
experiences
Okay.
as a collective. That's why when one of us
No,
does something or
wrong.
achieves something, we're all like, we
No.
go crazy for it, right? And when
By the way,
pain
what he's
happens
depicting
among
as
one of us,
fact
we
is
all-
a theory. It's one of many theories. It's not been proven.
Well, of course it wouldn't be, because it's saying that all people who look alike have the same experience. That's ridiculous. There's no way to prove that.
There are claims, but there's not like, it's not like a known thing.
Oh God, YouTube is freezing again. Hang on, need to reload. Hang on, stand by.
I see the world as a villager. I move as a villager, right?
It's gonna buffer a couple times. We still haven't talked about this in school at all. This is just a giant struggle session. That's all this is. This has nothing to do with school, nothing to do with education.
The most that we've gotten out of it is that Kate thinks this is a perfect framework for teaching children history. And what's more, she can't understand how you would teach history without it.
Black people, much of our experience is as a collective. That's why when one of us does something or achieves something, we're all.
That's why when a Black person disagrees with me, I can say that they're not really Black.
But we're not a monolith.
All feel it.
Except we experience everything together.
But we're not a monolith. We're not all the same.
Right? But what whiteness does is it's very individualistic. It's very
see what I mean?
As one achieves, one gets. As one loses, that person loses, right? It's very different. As a
that's not true.
No,
that is a false dichotomy. It is bullshit.
Right? Is
Individualism, rational self-interest is not I have because I took from you. Ever heard of mutual exchange? Voluntary mutual exchange?
So my whole point is, do you not? There were Africans that had been traveling to mainland America. There's
not true.
I've been Sertima. It's called "They Came Before Columbus."
It's a theory.
Yeah, well,
and he talks about Africans who had been traveling to mainland America over 400 years before Christopher Columbus came. And Weezy and I talked about this in the live that she and I had, because Weezy,
they like the theory, so they say it's true.
Moroccan, Northern African descent.
We have no evidence of it.
About
not sufficient to say it's true
or whatever. Right?
When has ever stopped them, Deb?
America's existed just over 200 years. Yet
they're using things like there's sweet potatoes in both places.
Spain for over 600 years, and Western Africans and Northwestern Africans had maritime capabilities to travel the globe.
I have to go back. Hang on. I have a question. Aren't people from Spain Hispanic? Am I wrong? They're not white.
They come and they go in and out of whether something is white or white adjacent or part of whiteness. It's not based on your phenotype. Remember, she talks about phenotypically white, and then people have whiteness, and whiteness spans the globe, and we're all indoctrinated in whiteness, and it's all about systems of power. And what this basically amounts to, as far as I can tell, is anybody who is in a position of power over other people is white, and anybody who isn't is not white, unless the people in power are Black, in which case they just get to be Black, because it's okay to be Black and in power. It's not okay to be white and in power, or any version of white, brown, yellow. Obviously, I don't mean yellow. You know what I mean? If it's you're not.
Yeah.
So there's lots of contradictory standards that it's okay to, that doesn't count.
Yeah, and people are saying in the chat the Moors had genes in Spain too, which I understand.
That's correct, because they were an empire. They were an empire.
Navigators were Moors, Black people.
Moors.
This is why
you just said it. Black people. Black people are in Spain, but no, they're white. Adjacent to whiteness. And
then he starts talking about the conquistadors were Moors because they were the navigators, whatever. But it's not in their nature, Black Africans, to be colonizers.
Wait. The conquistadors
it's coming. It's coming.
Do we want to talk about what the conquistadors did?
That we learn about. You hear conquistadors, so you're naturally going to think white, Anglo-Saxon, Europeans, right? But they were Moors. They were Black people.
And they were vicious.
And they ravaged entire nations.
And raped people and forcibly converted people to their religion. Yeah.
Wow.
The population of Black people in America.
Listen to this.
So great. And in number that the capacity of slave ships during the slave trade was not enough to actually have brought as many Black people to America.
This is the theory.
In that time frame and with their capability. It just was not possible. We were here. Many of us here already. So if you don't know about the Moors, if you
People
don't
just had no
understand
contact with them, but they
why
were here.
Morocco was
They were
the very
magically
first nation
here.
Maybe they were
to-
ninjas. They were
to
hiding in the
identify
shadows.
America as a sovereign
Which
nation.
America?
You
South
really
America?
got
Central
to-
America?
you gotta
North
do
America?
that.
Conquistadors were
You
in
gotta
South America,
really
dude.
Yeah,
use
they weren't
the
friggin'
system.
here.
Yeah.
Because so this dismantles the thought process of, well, if you could travel to another nation, if you have the ability to do that, and you have weapons, and you have this, and you have that, and you're going to take over other people. That's not the nature.
Somebody said in the chat the conquistadors
everyone
took
in the
back
world.
Spain from the Moors.
Tell
For
the
sure.
Peruvians
No, I hear
that the
you. I mean,
conquistadors
so-
were
yeah,
not
I mean,
like,
I guess that's like
it's not in their
one of those
nature to
things where,
colonize.
like slavery existed in a lot of these cultures and stuff. Like none of them's perfect. And
He's
and I can even
so
get on board with
misrepresenting
this
history. It's
concept
like,
that
God.
Europeans coming here, it was gross. Down.
why is it gross? Why is it gross? I
Why?
wouldn't know where to
the
live if
Enlightenment
we didn't,
principles, I think,
if
are the
Europeans
way
didn't come
out.
here.
Would you guys agree that like the principles of the Enlightenment are good for everybody?
Here it comes. Of course,
you
it's
talking about your homegirls.
Kate.
If we just love everybody,
Kate Furrowbrow in the chat.
He's talking about principles of enlightenment, and now he thinks he's talking about Chloe Valderi's theory of enlightenment. He doesn't even know what the Enlightenment is. But he knows all about the conquistadors, except that he doesn't.
No.
He thinks they were Moors. The conquistadors were not Moors.
No, they were not.
if we just love, it's all good. We just love.
That's
And
not what she
basically
says,
That's not what that
what
meant.
I gathered from her theory.
That's
You think we could just love our way to liberation and that's it?
No, I want specific policies. I'm saying not love. I'm saying the Enlightenment
Marucci
principles,
brings
like
up
the
a good point.
Constitution. Like Frederick Douglass recognized that the Constitution.
I know, but your girl's theory of enchantment, like the you know what I'm saying?
Chloe Valerie. It's treating everyone with the same equal respect is her big thing.
Right.
we can't
Daryl
do that.
Davis or
Whose responsibility is it to dismantle racism from your perspective?
Nobody's. Each
I
and every
think
one of us
everyone
individually.
who's a member of society. Racism is a terrible ideology. It doesn't hold up. It's a stupid way
You're
to
not
think.
defining it the
It's
same way.
Overly simplistic. It doesn't work. It's a self-defeating mentality too. That if you will discriminate based on someone based on their race, you are going to miss out. I had a student one time who said, "I don't learn from women." And I was like, "Are you insane?" Like, what if Oprah Winfrey said, what if you have an entertainment business? Oprah Winfrey is like, "Hey, let me help you. Sorry, Oprah, what can you teach me about the entertainment business?" Like, that's the way I see racism. It's terrible. I think it will defeat itself, but I think it's all of our responsibility.
You do talk about toxic femininity, which I think is one of the most
Real things that
Look at
nobody
that.
wants
I'm
to
trying
talk
not to look at
about.
Weezy right now. All right, it's one of the most problematic things that I've ever seen, and I don't know if you just did it
Problematic
for
bingo
clickbait,
card.
Bingo
'cause you
card.
bring like YouTube
No.
aesthetic to Instagram, right? So like you do like the like you just
YouTube
did a thing on like
aesthetic.
cultural appropriation, but yet you put on like computer graphic imposed like locks on yourself, right? And
For the cover.
What the
Yeah.
hell is
for
he
the
even
cover,
talking
right?
about?
But also don't have a clear understanding of the difference between cultural appropriation and
Oh my
cultural
God.
appreciation.
Well, that's what I talked about in the video.
Actually, you
Well,
didn't, but
So
Go ahead,
I just want to
Sarah.
jump in and
Go
bring
ahead.
it back to the point. For anyone who doesn't
Listen to this.
know what Enlightenment principles are, it's a philosophical movement that dominated in Europe during the 18th century, was centered around the idea that reason is the primary source of authority and legitimacy, and advocated such ideals as liberty, progress, tolerance, fraternity, constitutional government, and separations of church and state.
Oh no.
Now, inherently, the problem with that is that when our Constitution was built on those founding principles, but was not built on those founding principles, including the humanization of marginalized folks.
What the fuck
So
are you
cannot
talking
cite
about?
Our Constitution should be burned because our Constitution in and of itself is only written for who owned land.
Okay, pause this right here for a second. I got something to say. Okay? Now, she says our Constitution was not written to include the humanization of marginalized people. I submit that it was explicitly. The 3/5 compromise, that is much maligned 3/5 compromise, became the 3/5 compromise because the Southern states, who were doing the marginalizing of the people and the owning of the people, wanted to count people that didn't have a vote as a whole. Like, they wanted to count them for representation purposes without giving them rights. And the way that the framers recognized their humanity and the fact that they were being deprived a right to vote was they said, you can't do that. You can't count them for representation as a full person for representation if you don't actually let them vote. So instead, we're going to make it a 3/5 compromise, 3/5 of representation, because you have not recognized their humanity and given them the right to vote. And if they didn't do it, we would have had a country. And also, all of those slaves might have been part of some other country called South of United States or whatever. And we would never have had a civil war. And they would probably still have been slaves for another 100 years. So it set the groundwork for slaves' abolition, for the Civil War, and everything else was the 3/5 compromise that they claim was dehumanizing, was the opposite, was recognizing the humanity of those people who were disenfranchised.
Well, I just want to point out, too, that she just said that we need to burn the Constitution. These people will say every day of the week, we don't want to destroy the systems of society. We don't want to destroy the system. We don't want to destroy the system. This is something that the right is lying about. They just don't know what critical race theory means. We don't want to destroy the system. We don't know what you're talking about. She just said to burn the damn Constitution.
Right.
She just said it.
Yep. And that's why I said in my video they posted just before I came on here, I said, guys, it doesn't matter what they call it. It doesn't matter if you're reading critical race theory right or wrong, or it's this or it's that, or by any other name. These people, make no mistake, these anti-racist, critical race theorists, whatever the hell they call themselves, just look at how it's being taught. If they're teaching your child that the Constitution of the United States is an inherently white supremacist document, it needs to be shredded, then forget about it. All you need to know is, what are your values? What are their values? Do you agree? If you do, fine, knock yourself out, go found a private school. But in the United States of America, public schools paid for with public tax dollars, you cannot do this. This is treason.
We're going to have to clip that one, Deb.
I did.
Men at the time. It's
I'll
still
send it to
written
you.
accordingly. Who was on?
No, I mean
Black
you.
folks.
We're going to have to
Those-
click your rant.
Oh, sorry.
Hang on. Give it a sec. Look at those crazy eyes. Crazy eyes. Kate Furrowbrow Colin, thank you for the super chats. Appreciate it. Thank you. Oh,
But that's, I mean, that's exactly what it was. They recognized their humanity.
Those amendments have not been ratified. You should read your.
Yes, they have.
If you're going to actually make these references, then you should know what you're talking about. There are still really oppressive amendments and languaging in our Constitution.
It's been 156 years. Get over it.
First Amendment.
Which means the Constitution itself is only rooted in enlightenment for white people.
Not
oh
true.
my God.
So, to bring it back, because the point was critical race theory, and I said this already, we can play this game of answering questions with questions,
I got it.
diverting,
Right here.
We can sit and talk about all the
It's
other
ratified, by the
things.
way.
We're here to talk about
Yeah.
CRT. And the question
Liar.
was,
Pause for
do
a
you
second.
believe that
Okay,
it's
you're gonna
privilege
hang
for
on. History
white
lesson.
women?
Okay. Take it. Deb.
Okay, the 13th Amendment was ratified December 6, 1865, and it reads, Section 1, neither slavery nor involuntary servitude, except as a punishment for crime whereof the party shall have been duly convicted, shall exist within the United States or any place subject to their jurisdiction. Section 2, Congress shall have power to enforce this article by appropriate legislation. And the problematic language, hate to use the word, that she's talking about is the part about involuntary servitude except for crime for punishment. Now, we can debate all day long whether people working in a prison is involuntary servitude or not, but that's the language that pisses people off because it makes it sound like they're entitled to use prisoners for slave labor. But the fact of the matter is, we haven't done that in this country for a very long ass time. Now, if she is really hung up on semantics and wants to go back and rewrite those little words to make it explicit that the prisoners in prison have to volunteer for work duty, then I guess we could waste our taxpayer dollars and our time rewriting something that everybody in the society understands is the law. But yes, it was ratified and she's full of shit.
Thank you.
You have now come to the realization that you have been reading and learning.
She could also just like campaign to ratify the Constitution. Like she's perfectly capable of doing this if she has so many complaints. Like it's
She
a
doesn't like the
long
language.
process.
The semantics are icky. They're from 1865, Carl, and it's icky
Then
language.
ratify the Constitution.
Or like amend it or whatever,
Jesus. Or ratify. Yeah, I meant it. Whatever. I've already had 2 beers. I'm about to crack open a
From
third.
people who are not
I
in
can't be
fact
held
critical
responsible.
race theorists, and thus your perspective is horribly informed. It's not actually informed by CRT. Is that a fair summation?
No,
it's not.
Yeah.
No.
Cool, yeah.
So that's one.
Yeah.
Cool. So that's one.
But there's a sound effect.
Good resource, then good. So I agree.
Cool. So that's one. 2,
Okay.
Your concern with CRT is that it was going to be weaponized and improperly taught. Can we agree
No.
that is not the responsibility of the theory? That is the
He seems very
responsibility of
concerned about the
educators
children.
for doing the educating.
That's exactly the point.
Well, I would have to.
That's exactly the point. It is the responsibility of the educators. That is exactly the flipping
Yes, Dr.
point.
Kate is an educator of educators. So it is literally her
It is
responsibility.
literally her job.
Dive in more onto the theory, but
Well, just
I mean,
just generally.
I mean, it's like, what do they pay her to do? And I'm glad that they're so very concerned about the psyches of these children. Nobody has expressed any concern about children. That it's not the child's job to right the wrongs of the society in which they live, either black or
Is it
white.
in anything that you teach, right? You teach history. Is it
Yeah.
your responsibility to teach anything? The Enlightenment.
Yes.
Properly?
Yes,
Yes!
it is.
Enlightenment's responsibility to pop up and resurrect itself and be like, actually, that's not what happened, and this is how it works.
Yeah,
And
I
guess
think
what?
properly,
We've
but
done
I
that
think, of
actually.
course, that's gonna
Okay.
we're going to disagree on what properly means, but yes.
Okay, so properly rooted in fact,
What facts would critical race
facts
theory
are
have?
the
Citing
same?
the sources.
right? Does not
Sources.
prioritize.
Use the sources.
Look at Kate. Look at Kate.
Look at the sources.
Let's just remember back to about half an hour ago when Will asked for evidence that this was a rigorous theory and they didn't give him anything. And now they're like, this is all based in facts. Well, we don't know
Rooted
what
in
you're
facts.
talking
Use the sources. Don't be all academically elitist, but use the right sources.
Use the sources we tell you to use, not that Chloe Valdery black woman who's obviously lost her black card. Your pal says they're saying white is not racial. White is being American. Anyone can be an American. All Americans have equal rights. So obviously black is not racial either. It only means anti-American. Well,
Critical race theory means anti-American.
critical race theory means anti-American. Miss Cat. Oh my God, there are so many things I would say. Yes, so many.
Now
so
you know
many.
I didn't sleep last night.
We still have 40 minutes left to go, guys.
Well,
40
the
minutes.
good news is that the last half hour after Miss Thing leaves, it loses a lot of its value. So
Oh, excellent. Well, guys, if you haven't mounted that like button, now's the time.
Or emotional reactivity.
really, emotional
Right,
reactivity. Like I gotta leave. I'm
I
gonna
don't
leave.
know. Yeah. If you don't agree with me, then I just can't be
I'm
in this
gonna leave.
conversation.
But we're not emotionally reactive or anything.
This is definitely going to get clipped and used against us.
I don't even care anymore. Go
I don't
for
give a
it.
Fuck.
They think Karen is an own, and it's like, dudes, it's not the own you think
Right,
it
like-
is.
Cites accurate sources.
Accurate sources.
Yeah,
Right.
I was reading sources and I got jumped on. So
No, because the sources. First of all,
Those
that's
are
not
not
that
good
you
sources,
get
my
jumped
brother.
on.
I meant
Those
to
weren't
Masuda
our
and,
sources. Well,
and,
those were your
Crenshaw.
sources.
Yeah.
And when there was common ground and people and you named a good source, you were
Yeah.
validated and affirmed by these two women.
Yeah, so let's
Okay.
not lean into
Oh,
white victimhood. You weren't
really?
jumped on. You were incorrect, and we corrected you.
Oh my
That's not
God.
fair.
Oh my God. You were incorrect and we corrected you. You get validated by these women when you use the proper sources. This is, oh my God, I can't. I feel
The
so bad
power
for her.
dynamics in this whole thing are so weird.
It's
It's
really weird.
so immature and weird, and I feel like I'm sitting in middle school.
And it's also just there's just something so irksome about the attitudes of these three people. It's like, and I see this with all the critical race theorists. It's like they have this it's like the most inauthentic, fake attitude in the world, and I can't quite put my finger on it. It's like a cult. It really
is a cult.
It is like a cult.
It is 100% a cult.
Look, Von Cobra says CRT is a religion in which the creator is the devil. Yes. Oh no. God damn it. Reload. Reload break.
Mentioned Masuda and Crenshaw.
Okay.
And when there was common ground and people.
Oh, yeah.
We're going to relive this moment again.
Yes, they validated him.
They validated you and that you agreed with them, Will.
No, they nodded. They freaking nodded.
Yeah.
That's his validation. Yeah, that one's good.
He's been like cowering in the corner the entire time. I mean, literally, like look at his body language. He's all hunched forward. He's all small.
Named a good source. You were validated and affirmed by these two women.
Yeah, so let's not lean into white victimhood. You weren't jumped on. You were incorrect, and we corrected you. That's not fair. Because what you end up doing when you start using language
Lean
like that
into
is
white victimhood.
you put Kate in a
Bitch,
certain position as a
we
woman.
are
and you put
nobody's
me as
victims.
in a certain position. So
Well, why does it make you
Bring it.
uncomfortable
Bring
when
it.
you hear this het white man?
Why
This
even
hat
play
white
that
man.
game? I like
It's
Well,
not
wait,
again.
time out. That's not a wait. Thank you for saying that. Thank you for saying that.
It's not a game.
Race is not a game to us.
Okay.
Here
I got
we
a
go.
14-year-old son.
Oh,
Kate emojis. Kate emojis. I want the chat filled with Kate.
this is where we're going to hear how his son is going to get killed anytime he walks out the door, apparently, because he's a black male.
I'm going to open the coconut stout. Because it's called Descent into Darkness. And I feel like this is the point we've reached in this.
Yeah, I wish I'd known that
Now
at the
is
beginning.
my height or peeking over me now. He got I ain't got no hair. So he over there. He looking taller than me.
Mhm.
And I have to deal with the fact that his innocence, first off, his innocence was gone at age 6, 7, 8. But his
Whose fault is
innocence
that?
in the adultification of his presence
Mhm.
is overtly apparent to me as a parent, which means
I
that
feel like I'm watching Living
my
Color.
son
In Living
moving
Color.
through society could potentially cost him his life because of race identity.
Oh my God.
Okay.
Yeah, good.
So when we name cis het white male, right, and you call it a game, the flip side of that is as if it's a game for my 14-year-old black son to walk outside. And
That
it's
has
not.
nothing to do with anything.
Oh
So
my
I listen,
God.
because I've heard you many times, and you kind of you play loose with it. You'll say things like, and he's black for whatever it means, right? Like that's your thing, right? I study
hasn't said
everybody.
that.
Okay.
Yeah.
So when you say stuff like that, I need you to understand that is harmful.
Okay.
And you
If you disagree with me, then you basically want my son to get shot by the police as soon as he leaves the house. Why do you
Well-
want my son to get shot by the police as soon as he leaves the house? Will.
And not wanting someone to label you with labels that you didn't choose for yourself. Cis het white man. And it's being done as a pejorative. We all know what that means. It's being done to like put him in his place. That him saying I don't want to play that game, that's his right. You don't get to decide what you call somebody. Isn't that what we're told about the pronouns? Isn't that what we're told about boundaries? Or is it only white people that aren't allowed to have their personal boundaries and aren't allowed to set things for themselves unless they agree with all of this BS? Excuse the hell out of me, but you try to label me something, cis het white woman, I'm going to be like, nope, I'm just Deb. And I'll thank you to just call me Deb. You don't get to decide what I am. You don't know me and I don't know you.
Don't deny their lived experience.
and I'm 100% sure you do this in your classroom.
How? Have you ever been in his classroom? Are you a mind reader? Are you a psychic? I do have a psychic on this channel every Tuesday night, but even he doesn't say stuff like that because that's not how it works.
Yep.
God, look at his face. Look at Will.
I feel so bad for Will.
I should make an icon out of Will right now.
Yeah.
Oh no, I lost it. Oh wait, no, I got
This
it.
can be problematic.
Yeah, that's like the 6th problematic I've counted.
I totally got that look. Hang on.
Do you know you could make a bingo card that was only problematic and someone would win?
They would, but that'd be way too easy. I don't know, like we gave up on bingo like 2 hours ago.
I gave up on sanity like last night.
Guys, if
Okay,
you think
then
Deb
it's
is
not a
great,
game,
subscribe to her
But
channel.
why would I get uncomfortable? It's not really uncomfortable. I think it's detracting from progress.
So
It's not
I'll just name because I said it, and then I'm gonna finish what I have to say, and then I'm gonna go because it's 6:30 and I have clients. I don't name
You ain't got
it
no
to
clients.
weaponize it against you.
She ain't got clients. I don't believe it. I don't believe she has any clients to see at 6:30 at night. Bluff called. Oh, shoot, guys. I think I missed some super chats. I apologize. I apologize if I missed your super chat. Hang on.
She's 3 beers in. Cut her some slack.
I'm sorry, Miss.
You know what's
Cat.
hilarious is Carlin's
Oh,
the one
and-
drinking, and I'm the
I
one
don't
losing
name
my.
it
Losing
to
my
make you feel a kind of way. If you feel a kind of way, that's between you and your spirit and your soul. That's not my problem. I name it because when we're having conversations around power dynamic and life experience and understanding,
You don't respect
those
his
are
life
important
experience.
because positionality is important and power positionality is important. So for you as a cis het white man,
God. Cishet white man.
Okay, can you pause it one quick second here?
Oh, sure.
I want
we're
you guys to
buffering anyway.
remember. I want you guys to remember that she literally just said that his feelings are not her responsibility, and that it doesn't matter that it bothers him. That's between him and his spirit and all this junk, right? That the impact of her words is not her responsibility. Just remember that in a couple minutes.
you hold a certain power position in society. You've already named that you.
Yeah, Will is so powerful. He's so powerful that he's barely said anything on this entire stream. He is obviously the dominant person in this entire stream when he said nothing and has had no questions answered and has not been able to use his cis heterodox white male status to get them to answer any question that he has.
Agree to that. Therefore, in opposition to you, Kate and I do not hold the same social identities. And
What are you talking about?
They've literally dominated. They have so much more power in this conversation and in life than he does.
Come on, YouTube, come on.
I even hold marginalized identities that Kate doesn't hold. So we have to acknowledge the power dynamic.
I just got the best icon of Will. It's real good. He's scratching his head and looking perturbed. like, what's going on? What is even going on right now?
Do they even know for sure that he's hetero? Like, I guess they've talked to him, so they must know.
So when a cishet white man who is at the epicenter of privilege uses language rooted in violence, you jumped on me.
Rooted in
when we
violence.
know the way in which women and women of color are depicted and are
As
stereotypes,
aggressive and etc.
exactly. Then it is
He's
important to
aggressive.
name that.
He defended his own
It's important
boundaries,
to
and
name
that's
that.
aggressive.
Because something happens.
White
Because
men are
when
not
you
allowed
say
to have
that,
boundaries.
everybody in here that already was looking for an excuse to stop listening to me is going to say, or Kate is going to say, yep, there are those emotional women. Oh, they jumped on him, so on and
I
so
can't
forth.
possibly imagine why they would do
So
that.
that's why I named it.
I can't possibly imagine why they think you're
Does
emotional
that,
wheeze.
does that help frame why we name those labels when we're talking about dynamics?
Power dynamics matter. They do. And it doesn't matter whether or not someone wants to affirm it. It really doesn't, because they exist. Whether or not we want to name it, whether or not we want to.
Power is the only truth. They do not have your same moral framework.
You'll get there. And if you don't, it's still there. I mean, that's just the reality of it. It is there. It exists.
Okay.
So I'm about to bounce, but Will, this is a true invitation for you because I truly believe that your heart is in the right place.
Thank you, Colin.
I believe that you want to be a part of progressive change. And I do believe that you are seeing atrocities in society and you're trying to make sense of them.
You know what this is? This is like the breaking down moment of Will. This is like, we're gonna beat you over the head until you agree with us, and then we're gonna break you down, and then we're gonna build you back up in our image of Kimberly Crenshaw. That's exactly what this is. This
That's
is like
what cults do, by the
hazing.
way. That's
It is
exactly
what
what
cults do.
They
Correct.
take away your individuality.
Nobody else believes it. I believe it.
That's why they're calling him cis het white man.
That being said, it's dangerous for you to have any sort of platform in a classroom, on the internet, anywhere else, holding the position that you have.
What in the
and not
holy
being
hell?
properly educated before you take a stance.
It is dangerous for these people to have any sort of platform.
I mean, if I found out that people like this were teaching my children,
Oh
they would be
my
gone that
God.
that day. That is my only goal, you guys, with doing this. And I hope you share it. I hope you tell every person you know who's a parent to watch this or watch the original or watch whatever. I don't give a damn which one you watch, but make sure every parent you know sees this. And you ask them, they go, it's too hard and I can't pull them out of school. Well, pick your hard. It's either figure it out or your child is subjected to these people.
Yeah.
Your little 10-year-old boy is 10-year-old Will.
She just said it is dangerous for you to have a classroom because you are a cis head white man.
And you think of that in the context of a superintendent out in Oregon who just said in the last month, we've waited long enough for some of you teachers to come around voluntarily. And now we're letting you know that if you're not going to teach this in your classroom, you're fired. They're mandating it in this school.
We're all teachers here in our own right. A different.
No, you're not a teacher. Please. Jeff, better late than never. Thank you, Jeff, for your ongoing support. I really appreciate it. Colin, I'm not sure why this. Yeah, Jeff is the best, honestly. Like, I'm so blessed.
Same.
Guys, subscribe to Deb's YouTube channel if you're enjoying this, and her locals as well, because she's awesome.
Levels in different ways is that you be more critical and intentional about where you are learning from. That you pause and you ask yourself,
we are the right
where
sources.
did this information come from? What was the person's intention in, writing the thing? Or what is their framework? Where did they learn it from? And also critical of yourself. Am I using this as confirmation bias? Right? Because this is why I asked you, and then I'm going to bounce.
I'm sure she has no confirmation.
I gotta go.
No, not at all.
That you are improperly educated because you have not actually been educated by CRT theorists.
Oh my
CRT
God.
theorists.
You haven't been educated by us.
You said that, right?
So
you
are. No, he didn't say that. No.
That's not actually CRT.
No.
Got to go back to the drawing board.
Okay.
Right? So I wonder what this could look like and what this conversation could have looked like if you had been properly educated and then formed an opinion. So if you want to go back and do that work and come from a perspective of like, yo, and now I've read the things.
I'm a horrible person because I'm a cis white man and I apologize for my
I will come back and
existence.
talk to you.
Struggle session.
Yeah.
But until that time,
she's making it so enticing to want to talk to her,
not a
isn't
two-way
she?
street, right?
Ah!
What do you mean?
Well, is there ways that you could be educated too about other perspectives?
I mean,
Bing.
You wanted to talk about CRT specifically, the theory,
No,
and its place in the
I
classroom.
cannot be educated.
Yeah.
I've already done my work.
I've already done the work. You have nothing to educate me about, Will, you cis-head white man.
It doesn't even dawn on her that someone might disagree with any of this.
I don't completely agree with CRT. So what other perspective is there?
I don't know. I mean, I'm not an expert on this stuff, but there are people that are.
Exactly.
Does it make you feel better to say that?
There are people who disagree with it, honey.
Better to say that?
Well,
why not? He's allowed to say whatever he wants.
He's like, I'm not an expert on this stuff. He's like, doesn't it make you feel better to say that? Will, you've admitted the problem. And now we can offer you a solution. Just enroll in our course for $300. Which apparently Wheeze has a course for $300. I'm going to crowdfund. We're going to react to this entire course.
Does it make you feel better to ask her?
I don't even crowdfund. I'll pay for it myself. I don't care.
Or if she's going to go back to do the work because you now feel the
Do the work. Don't make me educate you, Will.
She's like, what other perspectives could there be? Well, there could be any number of perspectives where people disagree with all of this, some of this, whatever. People could think this is like us, that it's a cult. That's a perspective.
onus responsibility to have to do it yourself.
No, I'm down to exchange ideas. That's what I
But
thought
here's
this was.
here's the thing, Will.
We don't
I'm not-
exchange ideas, Will. We tell you what to think. And then if you don't agree with us, we tell you we're wrong. And then we threaten to walk away from the conversation because you don't agree with us. Come on. Come on. YouTube, come on.
here to exchange ideas with you. Contacted Shiv. Let's be real clear. You contacted and reached out and tagged the homie.
Let's be clear. You asked us to educate you, and then you dared to come on this stream and not agree with every single thing that we're saying. Let's be clear,
And
Will.
he barely challenged them. Can you imagine if they were having a conversation with one of us?
Oh, God, Deb, this would be like a shit
Well,
show.
first of all, she would have tapped out ages ago.
like
Because you
18
wanted to have
hours
a
ago.
conversation
Yeah.
with individuals who understood critical race theory.
Oh, come on, YouTube.
I don't need to understand, by her definition, critical race theory to know that I like the Enlightenment values. Yes, I do. And no, I disagree that they are manifested whiteness. And I think whiteness is bullshit. And I think that they've invented this crap to sell their grift and their personal ideology so they can get socialism and Marxism into America.
Who taught it and or had a proximity to it.
Yes.
It's a whole lot of work.
It is a lot of work, man.
Just
Well, they
be
put in the
honest,
work,
show
man.
up on the battlefield with guns and like get it on, you know, like this is very time consuming.
I actually feel the most bad for people like Kate, though, because I really feel like she's been through this process. She's been broken down and she got built back up in their image. And now she's a good little ally that comes on shows like this and does this stuff,
Right?
tells
So
white people
I'm
to
not
shut
here,
up.
I'm not shaming
It's a
you.
sad
I'm not being
existence.
condescending. I'm not coming for your ability.
Oh, come on, YouTube.
I'm not shaming you. I'm not.
I'm just shaming you. I'm really not, but I am. But I'm not. But I am. But I'm not.
He actually sticks up for himself a little bit here.
Almanac got a bingo. Hang on. We have to sell. Almanac gets the bingo.
Again, you feel kind of way because you were
People love to see a woman of color, right, speaking with authority on a thing, and then say you're combative.
right. I'm
You're-
not being
You're
She's
condescending.
definitely not
condescending.
combative.
You're doing this and you're doing that. Like, nah.
I didn't
Nah.
come for your humanity. I
Y'all,
validated and
your
agreed with you.
fragility's being loud. Some of
She
y'all
yeah.
bullied the
calm it.
living
calm
crap
it.
out of him, and she's like, and she claims it's only her blackness.
Because let's be clear. I
Yes,
haven't come
please.
for your humanity, Will.
Look at his face.
I haven't shamed you.
Really?
I haven't
Look at his face.
told you, right? I haven't said that you're unintelligent or in fact, I gave
Better
you
not.
accolades.
He's smarter
And
than you.
I'm not saying I do, but could I disagree and say I felt shame?
I just threatened to leave the conversation 3 or 4 times within the first half hour, but I didn't shame you. I just said that if you didn't agree with me, I was going to leave the conversation because it wasn't worth talking to you. But I didn't shame you, Will. I didn't shame you. I just emotionally manipulated you in front of an entire audience of hundreds of people.
He just said, he goes, I'm not saying I do, but can I just say that I felt
is your
That's
relationship
fragility.
to yourself. That's your white
It's just your white
fragility.
fragility.
that's your white fragility.
It's your white fragility.
We knew that was
wait,
coming.
wait. Didn't they say that Robin DiAngelo should be thrown out earlier?
Oh, that's coming. And then she says that Robin didn't invent it. She's got an answer for everything.
Oh, God. Deb, I can't.
I know, it's painful.
I don't have
Because
enough
let's be
fear.
clear, I haven't come for your humanity, Will.
How do these people live like this? I don't understand it. And they all just laugh like, oh, Will. Oh my God. They do these fake laughs all the time.
Well,
and I'm
and
like,
remember, one of the tenets of critical race theory is impact is more important than intent, and they're going to tell you that.
I haven't shamed you. I haven't told you, right? I haven't said that you're unintelligent or.
Yeah,
in
we
fact,
heard that.
I gave
Thanks.
you accolades.
Can I'm not saying I do, but could I disagree and say I felt shame?
That is your
That's
relationship
fragility.
to yourself. That's your white fragility. You reached out
Well,
and you are actually
you aren't
talking
shamed.
to
Let
experts
us
with
assure you.
PhDs, academic background.
I have a
who have done
PhD.
years of research and are teaching these things.
God.
You said
I-
burn Robin Angelo's book, and then you're using
Apparently.
her idea.
Really badly.
It's not her
No.
idea. She stole it from critical race theorists. I have an hour-long TED talk on it.
Cheryl Harris.
If you have an
There's so
hour-long
many
talk,
different-
that's not a TED Talk.
So is this like privilege preserving epistemic pushback? Is that what this is? Is this
Okay,
like
so again, I'm not doing the thing where we divert and now talk about what you want to talk about, because we're having the conversation that
I'm
we
not
came to have.
shaming you. I'm just
You
not
reached
going to
out to
acknowledge
us.
anything that you're saying.
Well, Shiv, and then he reached out to us because this is what we do. And then
You notice how they have
you
to keep
get upset
restating
or
how this
followers get
conversation
upset
happened for
when
some
you ask
reason,
us
like
to be
that's
experts
relevant.
in the things that we're experts about. And this is why I don't agree with critical race theory, because critical race theory would have said, give you all space to be cushy and emotional and coddle you. No, I can honor your humanity, and I will not.
Yeah, I'm
drag
not
you.
shamed. Theoretically, I'm not. I'm fine.
I
I'm not
appreciate
emotional.
you saying that, Will. I do.
Exactly.
If a white person feels like subjectively like, wow, you attacked me in this conversation.
No.
That just is white fragility. It's not. There's no. Doesn't that?
No, it
but,
depends.
like, but we're
Sometimes
trying.
people attack people, but I didn't
Right,
attack you today.
But
What are
isn't
you
that a
talking
subjective
about?
thing? Like as students,
Did
That's
I
not a
attack you
subjective thing.
today?
That's
Yes.
why they treat students so badly.
No,
They
yes,
don't think
you
they're doing
did.
it.
You
Well,
did.
which one is it? You said you felt shamed by me, and now you're saying you didn't. That's not fair.
I never said I felt shame. I said theoretically if I did.
Bruh.
All right.
Am I crazy? Am I crazy?
Run the tape. Run the tape.
Yeah,
I'm not
I
crazy.
did. Theoretically if I did.
I
You
think
said
you did.
I feel shamed in this
No,
conversation.
he said, I'm not saying I did, but let's say I did.
They're literally
Amended
shaming
it
him right
And
now.
Well, this will be on-
theoretically.
They're shaming him right now.
Well, I didn't. If I did say, I don't think I did. But if I did say that, I meant theoretically if I was shamed.
Yeah, well, that
Okay.
depends. Did I attack you, or is it your fragility? Like, we'll see.
So,
Right?
So
But
your
in this
intention.
conversation, let's not play the semantics game. In this conversation,
Except
Did
when
I
I want
attack
to.
Intention.
Only when I want to.
did I attack
Only
you?
when I don't like
Yes.
the words that were written
Yeah.
156 years ago.
Yeah.
And semantics.
and hold my ground and exist unapologetically?
I thought
Yes
these people
to all
didn't
of
like
those
stand your
things.
ground laws.
Did I show up as an authority in the thing that I'm an authority in? Yes to all of those things.
Okay.
Right? Now, the reason that I'm not going to go and do any more educating is because on myself is because
I've run out of spoons.
again, I've already said where I stand in terms
It
of
must be
critical
nice
race
to be
theory,
so certain
how
of your
I
rightness
criticize
all the
it,
time
what
and then
parts
call
I do
yourself a
get and what
scientist.
parts I don't. I've already done my job.
Yes. It's
And I'm not
ceremonious
running around talking
belittling.
about critical race
If anyone
theory.
hires
You
this
are.
woman, they deserve
You
exactly
wanted to
what
have
they
this
get.
conversation. So you can't invite people to educate you and then flip it on them and say, but I'll only talk to you if you educate yourselves in
I never said
He never
you just
said
said
that.
it's a two-way street. Will you educate yourself on other perspectives?
That's a question.
He
Is
just
it a two-way
asked
street?
if
I don't
it's
know.
a-
I
In
don't.
this, yeah, in this
Huh?
topic particularly, no, because I don't need to.
That's what I was just asking. Okay.
Yeah, no. This is just not a two-way street in this topic.
He
'cause I've
made
done my
many
work.
mistakes,
I've
Jeff.
done my
No,
research.
100%.
Many
And that was the
mistakes.
kind of the problematic part about the statement. It was kind of like, oh, okay, so like, well, since
That's
I gotta go
seven
do the work,
problematics.
you're gonna go do the work, and it's like, you,
That wasn't my intention. I don't think that's what I said. Maybe I was. Maybe
That's
I
not
was,
what he said.
Well, see, Will,
They're
this is the thing, though,
misquoting
right?
and arguing against an argument he
See,
never made.
Implicit
man.
bias, implicit fragility,
Not
like,
a real
these
thing.
things are like so deep rooted.
Not a real thing.
sometimes
These
they
things I
come
just
out
made up, but
in
my
No
hand
evidence.
gestures make it
that,
so
like,
serious.
we don't intend them to mean, right? But
Listen.
one of the best statements or the best things that I think we can all have an understanding about is
These people are the epitome of the fact that if you just say something with confidence, people are going to believe you.
Yeah.
That's what's going on. They're just saying it with confidence. They're sitting back with their shoulders back, and people are going to believe them simply because they're saying it with confidence. But implicit bias has no evidence behind it. There is no evidence that this actually exists as a real thing that is measurable and consistent
Right.
across populations. Zero.
And
No.
she just got done saying that if you felt shame, that's on you. That's your problem. That's your white fragility. And now guess what comes?
Hang on.
that
Let's see.
impact matters more than intent. Impact matters more.
They live like this because they shame their cats. They probably do shame their cats. This one here definitely owns a cat. The one in the hat. Kate, I believe, probably owns cats as well. Doesn't CRT have its
More
roots in the Frankfurt
than
School? Yes,
intent.
it does.
You can mean well.
Yes, it
You could mean a thing, but the way it lands, the way it comes out, the way it moves earth once it comes from your mind, your spirit, your mouth, Your
Right.
body
I got the opposite
matters.
though. Okay. I just got the
No,
opposite.
if you thought the opposite, I'm sorry. No.
You're wrong,
So
Will.
if I
Don't you
was
understand
really
you're
upset
wrong?
right now, feeling attacked, that matters more than Wheezy's intention of just trying to educate me.
No, you're confused.
Not
Now
your
he
white
has
man.
to, look.
You see why that would be
He has to turn
confusing?
it around because it's
No,
on
I
her
see
now.
how you are confused.
Oh, let
Not
me
why
think really
it
quick
is
how I can
confusing.
unhypocrite
There's a
myself.
Impact over intent means
Doesn't apply
if
to
I
Wheezy.
intended to do a thing, but the outcome was something different than what I intended for it to be. What it did matters more than what I meant.
Right. And he just said, what about Wheezy? And he goes,
land?
no, you're confused.
No,
And then restates it again.
You're a white
Can
man.
you say that one more
Doesn't
time?
count.
I'm getting wrapped up because it feels like it's the.
This is why you can't have conversations with
It has
these
nothing
people.
to do with the other person. It's on you. The person
That's the
opposite
opposite
You put the input in, and what the output is your responsibility. If the output
But
is not
she
what you
was the
intended
one
when
with
you
the
gave
output.
the input, then you got to own it. You got to take accountability for it. We may mean to.
Deb has been broken. Deb is broken.
God.
She needs a drink. She does.
He was the one talking, not him. He didn't put shit out. Dude.
Can we have some perspective that this happens literally every day on every college campus in the country?
But that's the point, you guys. Somebody's children are on the receiving end of this. And this is a grown-ass man. And he cannot stand up for himself. Now you have to depend on these people for a grade. Now you have to worry that they're going to egg on your classmates to beat you up in the parking lot. Are you resistant to this? He can barely. I'm so confused. Imagine you're a person who's pre-rational because your prefrontal cortex is not completely developed. You don't really know history. You don't really have a vocabulary even to understand half of the crap that's being thrown at you. You haven't read this.
Oh my God, I can't even.
Love a person or be good to a person, but how we do it is harmful to the person.
Unless we're Wheezy.
Accountability.
How you're doing it is harmful to him.
That's what that means. It ain't got nothing to do with the other person. It's on us.
Poor Will. We need to have him on just for
We
like.
can
We do. We need to have a
Hard and mean
conversation
well.
with him. Be like, Will, we're sorry.
Liberals
didn't know what
do
you were
it
getting
all the
into.
time.
I'm gonna reach out to Will. We're gonna get him on this channel.
Yeah. poor
Yeah, we're gonna
Will.
have a conversation with him. We're gonna assure them that it's okay and that he's safe. And then we're not gonna tell him he's wrong because he's a cis white man.
We're not even going to call him that. He's
No,
Will.
no, he's a person. Even if he's a progressive that believes
the
in
story of white
reparations, he's
people.
a person.
That's the story of white people.
Oh my
Hey,
God.
you've been so patient. I'm so sorry.
I gotta go.
Yes.
Okay,
Yo, Weezy, thank you so much. And we're not going to be
Thanks,
on too much
Weez.
longer because I know it's folks that want to talk. And
Get
I
the
wanna
fuck
give
out,
people their
Weezy.
Freedom. Will them been in daylight and now it's getting dark. Weezy over here like, you not. I got to get to the bag. We're not going to hold you up, Pooh.
I appreciate
Bye,
it. But
Liz.
regardless, Will, my invitation still stands. After you've actually read critical race theory and you want to
Okay.
have
Don't
a
do it,
debate
Will.
and discourse
Will,
around
don't
it.
do it.
Don't
Like I said,
do
I don't
it.
agree with all of it either.
It's a trap.
The Stefanik and Delgado book.
No,
Total
no.
waste of your time,
No.
honey.
Will, don't do
Okay, I was
it.
gonna
Come
say,
talk to
hey,
us.
Get your people. Thank you.
Will, come on my channel.
Western
on my channel,
enlightenment
Will.
values.
Weezy, I
Okay.
love you, Pooh.
But what I will say is I am not going to have that conversation with you
Good.
publicly because I think it brings an element of a need to protect your pride. I think it brings an element of a need to try to like it inherently sets you in a defensive nature.
She's projecting now.
and I want you to be able to have this
This is
conversation
projection.
with me. Like other
It
people
is,
can
yeah.
be there, but we're not doing it for the gram. We're going to do this for you. If you actually want
The
to do that.
gram. Don't
That's
do it,
happening.
Will. No.
So-
If Will
so
agrees
I
to
will-
this,
I
he
will,
deserves
you know,
what he gets.
extend
Yeah,
that
I will have to
invitation
say
you.
that, yes.
Weezy,
Yeah.
before you go real quick, Will, I want to name a couple things though, like for real. Will,
For
are
real,
you
for real.
financially
Not for
invested
fake, for
in
real.
CRT?
Am I financially invested in CRT? Like, have I contributed to it
No,
financially?
in other words, do you have curriculi, a book, a
Curriculi.
think tank, anything that you're
It's
involved
curricula.
in that has something to
People
do
can't
with
speak
CRT,
freaking
whether it be
English.
pushing back on CRT or whatever the case may be, are you financially vested in this conversation about CRT?
Not financially, but I am working with organizations that are pushing back.
Think tanks?
No,
I
not profit.
not nonpartisan nonprofits.
So
Foundation Against Intolerance and Racism. Are you familiar with that? FAIR. Foundation Against Intolerance and Racism.
Fair.
one thing that I know about many conservative and libertarian
They're not conservative.
efforts is
Not
that they
at
like
all.
to name things one thing, but they mean exactly
They're
the
terrified of
opposite.
Trump
So basically
supporters,
what
actually.
you're saying is that you do have interest in the conversation around CRT.
And
I have
they
no,
don't.
I have no financial.
Not financial.
You're full of
I have
shit.
Streaming
that's not
on
true. If you're working with
Instagram.
organizations,
on
there's financial.
Instagram.
You're
with
a
thousands of
liar.
people. Oh my God, what a liar!
Oh.
And she
What's
has
financial?
financial
I
interest.
thought it meant like finances, like money.
Are you
For
working
me-
for an organization that gets grants or gets money or anything? And it
No,
has
they
something
don't
to do
get
with
grants.
CRT?
It's all private.
Oh yeah, like a nonprofit. Yeah. Yes.
Oh, poor
That's
Will.
problematic, Will.
That's problematic,
Well,
Will.
I would change my mind if
you
believed
gave me
that they
any
were doing
evidence.
something bad.
Impact over intent.
Oh my fucking god!
Okay. Yeah, I mean,
Unless
yeah,
it's
Daryl
Wheezy.
Davis, I work with, and he's an anti-racist. I
Shivy
think.
is such
I
a
would call him an
grifter. Look at him with
anti-racist.
this whole setup. Has a
He got
better
people out of
setup
the
than
KKK
Deborah
and
Wright. He's like,
and
I'm not
neo-Nazism.
financially invested
Okay.
in this
Are
at
you
all.
writing a book on CRT?
No, I'm writing a book on good pedagogical practices, though. Critical thinking. I'm writing.
Are you including conversations about CRT in your book?
Please, no.
I don't know if we're gonna use that term. We might use terms like anti-racism in the way that it's being taught sometimes, something like that. I don't know if I don't think I've written anything about that term yet, though. I do not work.
Do you
Look
think
at her
you need to get
eyes!
learned up on some of these things before you decide to author them?
I think he
And
can
just
write
let
whatever
them
book
do
he
it.
wants, and it's
He
none of
can
your
write
damn
whatever
business
fuck
because you people
Yeah,
write
I mean,
all.
I've read
She's
a
got a
lot, and apparently
$300
those were
course
not-
out full of bullshit.
Yeah, I mean, I think I'm trying to get as many perspectives as possible. I'm talking to a lot of different Black people, a lot of different Mexican people, a lot of different Cambodian people. Like, I'm talking to people about these ideas.
Well, you say they don't count.
Well, you got to
Cambodians
go
don't
to
count.
the sources. I mean, and I'm not in any way taking away or devaluing the lived experiences of people of color.
In fact,
But if
you
you are
are
writing a book, you better know.
You need to
what
go
the
to
hell
people who
you're
agree with
talking about.
us.
In a conversation, no shade to Weeze, no shade to Shivy, and certainly no shade to me, but a conversation with us, that ain't it.
Yep.
You gotta go do like a couple.
He never said he wasn't going to, and he also said he wasn't going to write about critical race
You gotta go
theory.
do a lot of reading.
I'm not talking about critical race theory. I'm talking about what is good to do with class.
I
I thought
understand
she
critical
had
pedagogy.
clients.
And what you just told us is that you don't necessarily use critical pedagogy in your
She has no
classroom in
clients.
particular ways.
Because it's crap and it's abusive to children. But he's writing about good critical pedagogy, which is critical thinking.
Well, why aren't you just using these sources that we're telling you to use? I don't know why this is
Why
so
did you
hard.
do? We tell
Will.
you. Why won't you brainwash your students?
Intent versus
Make it
impact.
easier for us to take
Will.
over the country. We don't want to bleed.
How
We don't-
dare
Is what?
you
I'm
write
sorry?
a book,
It
Will?
cut out.
Is that you don't use critical pedagogy in your classroom.
Like critical theory.
He's not
I mean
obligated
critical
to, Kate.
pedagogy. I mean things like culturally relevant pedagogy.
Oh, I mean like critical thinking. Like again, the dictionary.
There's a
definition
whole
critical
lot of
thinking.
versions of culturally
all
relevant
viewpoints,
pedagogy that aren't
John
critical
Stuart
race
Mill, like,
theory.
Critical thinking, like viewpoint diversity and stuff like that. That's what I'm talking about.
Mm-hmm.
So we have different definitions, but I'm a big advocate for viewpoint diversity. That's a very important thing to me. And so and that's more what my book would be about. Getting different perspectives.
Okay.
That's problematic.
Weezy,
We
I
gotta
know
go.
you gotta
I gotta
go,
go.
sis. I just want to make sure I name those things before you went.
I was also going to say, so
God bless.
Thank you.
Good.
Love you,
Leave.
Weezy.
Get
I'm gonna talk to
the
you later,
ass
sis.
out. Go. Oh,
My
good.
lord.
She's gone. Oh,
Okay.
no. He's at the
I'm
top.
sorry.
Oh,
Go ahead. Go
no.
ahead, Slater.
I got to hop off too. But
Yep.
what I wanted to say is that I'm going to go back to what you said at the very beginning of this conversation, which is that, again, going to root this in CRT. You are interested in policies, right? You are interested in building a more equitable world through policies and action. But the way you talk about racism, you talk about it as if it's just an individual event. It's like a mind over matter. White people just need to
Yes, we
be
understand
less
what critical
racist,
race
and it'll
theory
somehow be
believes. We
solved.
disagree.
And so I'm inviting you to do a deep dive into CRT, because I think there's some real urgency for you to actually get clear
He's like, no.
on what you think about the ways in which racism operates individually and systemically. And I'm saying this to you actually with a whole lot of humility as someone who didn't know jack shit 6 years ago.
And
did
I'm
a
now
whole
fully
lot of
indoctrinated
fucking work
because I've
during my
read a
friendship
lot of books.
to
Let's
unlearn.
just talk live. We do
I've
what we
not
wanna
been
do right
living
here.
in the world, but I've read some books.
We do what we want to do
I
too,
had to
Shibby.
unlearn a lot of stuff. I had to unlearn a lot of stuff, and it is hard work and it's raw work, but it's also urgent work. And if you're sitting here and you're saying that you believe in equity and you believe in diversity and you believe in creating a better world, you know,
I just
I've
believe in
watched
doing
your
it
lives.
differently than you.
I understand the stake you have in this game. You know, I'm
No, you
happy to
don't.
have a conversation with you about what this process was like for me and how messy it was and all of the things that I had to reckon with. So,
And now I'm a
saying
fully
this
paid
with my whole
professor
heart. My
teaching
DMs
this
are
drivel to people.
I will send you all
So
the
messy.
resources I've got.
You gave up so much.
Like Shivy said, this isn't a game, you know, but the amazing part is white privilege allows you and I to dip in
Well,
and
we
out.
are about to
It allows
ban
us to have
Kate's
levels of
particular work, so I
investment
don't feel
that
bad
we
about that.
choose. And meanwhile, racism marches on. So
Well, our
there is
particular
urgency
power
to the
gets
work
us
that we're
canceled
doing,
and
I'm
fired
glad you
from
were here for
jobs and
this
not hired in the
conversation.
first place because we
Shivy,
don't
thanks
agree
for
with
the
your
invite.
garbage.
No,
So
100%.
we have so much power.
Look, I know we need to wrap. I'm gonna wrap the conversation. I'm gonna end the live after we wrap, and then I'm gonna bring the live back and open the floor to anybody who wants to just kind of share their piece, because the comments have been going. If I could print the comments, I'm sure it would just be hundreds of pages, right? I want to offer with
Yo, Kate has a job. Adrian, Kate has a job. She works with the University of New Hampshire. This is how we know her.
Yep.
She does.
She has a website. It's linked to
Now,
from the video, and you can go check her website out. She's
when 544 passes,
Yep.
Kate might no longer have a job, which is why Kate's been campaigning against it.
Bill the opportunity to just give like his last piece and say what he wants to say. Dr. Slater, I want to give you the opportunity to say your last piece and what you want to say. I'll end live, and then I'll open it back up for anyone who wants to join.
Yeah, thank you for.
All right, we're gonna get through this. I would love to have Kate on my show, Casper. I would love to have Kate on my show.
She'll never come on your show.
No, Kate will never come on my show. But Kate, you have an open invitation. I will do this anytime. I will fit into your schedule. You have an open invitation, Kate, to come on my channel.
This. I think as soon as I was trying to get on a road,
dude,
I said something problematic, or I said something.
$100 for white people and $50 for everyone else.
Maybe I'll just say something that is offensive, or that critical race theory says is a bad way to do it. And it might be, but it might not be. Critical race theory might be wrong. Like it might be. And I just that's the way I'm looking at this. Like, you know, you just did 6 years of work or 5 years of work. Maybe that's wrong. It's possible. It's possible that it's wrong. It is. So everything's possible to be wrong. I mean, aliens now apparently are around. You know what I mean? So like, there's all this stuff that could just change. That's what science is. The scientific method is we're always trying to prove
Actually, they
wrong.
haven't proven it enough for it to be in the realm of being proven wrong, because it was never shown to be correct in any way.
I'm sorry if my questions were problematic.
Maybe Adrian could
ask questions. I need to
weigh in
understand
on that
things. I'm not going to go along with something that I don't understand. And I think that's what I would want from my students. I want them to think about things. And I hope you see, at least I was thinking. I was really thinking about this stuff. But I'm not going to just blindly go forward, which I think a lot of people do, because they're scared of being called a racist, or they're scared of you know, being, you know, some of the people said mean things in here. Like, that doesn't bother me. I'm trying to figure this out. So I hope that came across. And if it didn't, I apologize.
So what are the central tenets? I'll say my piece, and then I'm going to go get in a bubble bath, and I'm going to like shut out the world and maybe read a romance novel.
I realize it was so difficult for you to be in the power position in this conversation.
And again, I'm saying this with a lot of generosity, Will. One of the central tenets of CRT is listening to the lived experiences of people of color. And so you have I'm a white lady, but we just had 2 people of color on here, and you had questions about racism, about history, about their experiences. So they are telling you what you need to do. And so if you really, really are here to learn from them, then you take this knowledge and
that
go
doesn't
somewhere.
make them right.
Again, we
Their
have
blackness doesn't make them right.
Don't listen to that Chloe Valdary, who is more black than either of them.
We're conditioned in whiteness. We're white people, right? And we're conditioned to not see other people's lived experiences.
Don't
this
listen.
Is a
Bullshit.
key piece of CRT.
So, what are you talking about?
I am as capable of listening to another human being as you are.
Shivy and Weeze have said
I just don't approach them like my precious
that's how I
pet.
learned everything
that I need to like
one
until I find out they disagree with me, and then I take a crap all over them.
Kate, you got some epic self-loathing to work on, man. You really do. You got epic self-loathing and self-hatred to work on.
So
she listens to the lived experiences of everybody but the people who disagree with her, who are automatically just sheltering in whiteness.
Will, thank you so much for, bro. I wouldn't want to be you today. This has been, let me tell you something, Will. I got mad respect for you. And I told you this last time. Yo, bro, listen, a lot of folks feel how they feel, they think how they think, and they do it kind of in their silo. They do what they do. It honestly cause a lot of harm in classrooms. The world doesn't see it. No one's there to call them in or call them out. They're not willing to share these perspectives out loud. And you did, and you are. I appreciate you for that. You know, folks get on me because they're like, you know, oh, why would you amplify this person? Or why would you give opportunity to share a platform with this person or whatever, right?
Yes, it's
the reality
so problematic of him to champion.
Look at how many people have been tapped in our lives.
Diversity of thought and Western Enlightenment
right?
values.
None of us are in the M's or the 500,000s of followers, and y'all know how Instagram works. You know what I'm saying? Lives don't get that much viewership unless people really care about the conversation. Right.
Yes.
So
you're gonna get more viewers because he shared it.
But
yes, he is.
See things maybe a different way. Or
we're getting more viewers than them now.
Informed enough yet, and therefore feel how they feel, and now they're able to get some information from us or whatever. So my hope is that there was some fruit and some gain.
There was literally no information given in this entire webinar. It was just yelling and belittling this guy. That's all it was. There were no questions answered. It was all yelling and belittling.
Be careful what you ask for.
Look at DeVille.
Look at DeVille. When we think, we can just, we can tap in with a person and we're just gonna like, I don't know, ramrod our ideology.
Let's see some Kates in the chat for DeVille. Let's see some Kates in the chat. He who knows something
knows that he knows nothing at all. One of my favorite.
Oh God. Oh God.
Was that yours or his?
That's his.
Oh my God. I wonder if Will was making a screen recording. I bet you he screen recorded that. Because you can't download it Instagram.
Is that
Will was a champion.
But you got to read the right people.
You got to read the right people. Only read the people we tell you.
Validate the right people.
The right people.
You give to your viewers many times. Oh, this person's figured out how to solve racism, and you got the wrong one. You say this person figured out why CRT is wrong. They ain't even CRT theorists.
Who decides the right people?
You don't have to be a CRT theorist to know that this is Marxian BS. That is not scientific and it's a cult.
That you're leaning on.
The right people is defined by you.
Oh, you can download an IG post.
They're felons.
Maybe I'm wrong.
Okay.
It's just suspicious because he had the battery low.
No, we can let it go. We can let it go. But yeah.
I think he was recording.
I got a bubble bath, y'all.
Thank you. Go ahead, Slater.
You will.
Thank you, Queen.
Anyway, that's basically it.
Oh my God, Deb.
Yeah.
That was insanity, Deb.
I told you.
Dude.
I told you. And I told you that, last night when I watched the first half and I was like having a nervous breakdown because I'm sitting there like screaming. My kids are asleep. I'm in my room alone and I'm just like, I'm just screaming at my phone. I'm like, Will.
Well, I'm going to try to get Will on the channel. I will coordinate with Deb. We will have a therapy session for Will. We will assure them that he is not. Will, you're not a bad person. No, we're sorry. We're sorry for what happened to you.
Here's my theory of it is that he's a teacher. He's got to keep his job.
Yeah.
He's got to keep his job. He knows the score. And he's got to keep the conversation going as long as possible because the only way he's going to really learn anything about what they really stand for, and then by extension, show the rest of the world what they really stand for. And my argument where they were saying, you shouldn't share this, it doesn't belong to you. I don't know the rules, whatever, but here's what I do know. If they were proud of their output, if they truly believed that everything they said was absolutely legit, okay, and Will didn't edit anything. He just put it out there for the world to see, okay?
Yep.
And for us to comment on. We could have been in the Instagram pounding away on the comments and going, you're a crazy person, right? What difference? We could have later gone and made a separate video without showing it and said the same stuff. The fact of the matter is, you put something out in public, then you say you're proud of it and it's the truth and the right this and the right ideas and impact versus whatever and all this stuff, then own it.
Exactly.
You either believe it or you don't. And
exactly.
you know, he could have, if he shared it, Will could have just as easily gotten them thousands more followers and believers as not. They believe in it so much, and there was their words. It wasn't his words. He could have not shared it, gone on and made a separate video saying, this is what I learned, and misrepresented it all. And then they'd have a great, but no, it's their words. Why can they be mad at what we just did? It's their words.
Well, and what I don't understand is, like, if COT is like obviously the right methodology, and this little stream was so great and so convincing, then why would they have a problem with it being public? Because this is unlisted on his channel. Like, why would they have a problem with this being public if it was so great and it's so just like obvious and they're the right sources and they're the right people? Then why don't you want people seeing this shivvy?
Well, and not only that, you guys want to teach it to our children.
Yeah, exactly.
And we not only have a right to know what you want to teach our kids, we have an obligation to dig and find and search and share with other parents so they can make a decision for themselves. Half the people in here could have disagreed with you and I, Carlin. They could have said, well, we like it. We think it's good. You know, we think it's the right way. And that's fine. But it is public freaking school. It is taxpayer funded. And if you are going to use tax money, you want to talk about vested interest in this. If you are going to sell programs and sell memberships and sell trainings and train teachers and have a tenured position or whatever doing this crap, then we, the taxpayers who pay your salary and pay for all of this and give you our offspring, our babies, for their minds to be molded, that, I'm sorry, you lost your authority as far as it's my work product, it's my stuff, you can't touch it. Well, guess what? My child of my loins is my work product. And you do not get to teach my kids or anybody else's kids what your belief system is. And if you disagree, then let's have some fundamentalist Christians go into the school and start teaching your children what they should believe. Yep. I'm an atheist, okay? And I understand I don't get to go into a school and say, there's no God. God is, look, there's no evidence of God. You shouldn't believe in God. I don't get to do that. That is immoral and wrong. And I would never do that to a child or their family. But that's what they want to do. My belief system is the right one because I spent 5 years reading books.
The right books.
Well, you didn't give birth to my kid or anybody else's kid in the room. So you have an obligation to divulge what your beliefs are and to have them stand up to scrutiny. And if they don't stand up to scrutiny, sucks to be you.
Well, Deb, I love and adore you. I could listen to you literally all day long. Guys, if you enjoyed Deb, please subscribe to her YouTube channel. It is in the description below. Also, join her local. She is awesome. If you're interested in homeschooling your kids, she is the woman to go to. She will help you figure it out.
Well, you gotta get away from these people. Thank you, Carlin.
Yes. Thank you, Deb, for joining me. Guys, we do this every Friday at 3 p.m. Eastern. Hey, maybe Deb will join me as a regular. Who knows? It might drive her to absolute lunacy, but
count up how many super chats you got. See if I add value.
Well, I think you do. But next time, Deb, we got to get you a drink. We got to get you
next
a drink.
time I'll actually sleep the night before, and I won't have to drink water. Look how pale I am. I am so very phenotypically. Is that it? Phenotypically
I think so.
white.
Well, I assure you, the alcohol makes it all go down a little bit easier.
All right.
All right, guys. Well, that's all we have for this week. We'll see you next Friday at 3 p.m. Eastern for another happy hour. Take care, guys. Have a good weekend.
Bye.
Bye.